Aita for not letting my fiancé's best friend live with us anymore, leading to the end of our 5-year relationship. Hi, I am currently going through a breakup with my fiancé and I need input from strangers. My friends have been validating a lot of my feelings, but I feel like that could be bias. Some context: I'm 26M, she is 23F, we'll call her Kate. We've been together just under 5 years, engaged for almost 2, I proposed on our anniversary. Anyway, this time last year we moved into a rental property my parents own with her best friend, we'll call her May F27. For the 18 months leading up to this job I had worked law enforcement. That job 100% made me realize that you can't change the system from within and made me fully a cab. I was injured a few times and also dealt with some close calls and some really heavy things. Even though I knew I should have been talking to a psychologist about these things during my time, I kept neglecting my mental health until I broke down. I got injured again, couldn't stop smoking, and quit the job. I was in denial about my PTSD and kept trying to push past it and get a different job in security. I couldn't do this, and the feeling of failure combined with being terrified of everyone around me outside, I struggled to find the motivation to find another job or do anything. I struggled going to the shops for some time. During this time me and May were always around each other and butting heads. Shortly after we moved and we were setting up rooms, I asked her to not touch some 3D printed D&D models that I had made and painted, due to some breaking in transport and me not wanting to risk more damage. She ended up moving all of them whilst setting up shelves and even unboxed ones I didn't want unboxed. I told her I had specifically asked her not to touch them and it upset me she did. Her response was I needed to unbox stuff and put it on shelves before the party. We had a housewarming coming up. I told her she could have done that without touching them. She yelled they wouldn't have been touched if you had done it yourself. When I talked to my fiancé about this, she took May's side. This established a pattern. May would do something that crossed a boundary, and she would yell at that. I did also do things which crossed her boundaries, and I did try to apologize and explain that I didn't understand that had been an issue and clear communication would help me understand in the future. Few months go by, I am terrified of May. Every time I'm around her my heart is pounding, I'm looking for weapons, my body is reacting to her as a threat. And I unfortunately responded by being angry. I felt like my fiancé wasn't doing anything to make the house feel welcome to me. I begged her to talk to May and she said she did, but that I needed to apologize first and show that I can change. Eventually in January it reached a point where May would clean a small section of our patio and sit and smoke. We would all sit and smoke together, she would only clean the section she sat. That area was where I sat most of the time when she wasn't around. One week she got angry because I left my stuff in her spot, and a different day I didn't immediately stop smoking and move over for her. I told her it was a communal area and she didn't own that spot. The next day I came home and she was building a couch in that area. I told my fiancé that it seemed like a petty attempt to take ownership of the space. My fiancé dismissed that, but also said I wouldn't be able to sit on it due to the weight rating of it. I tried to overlook it, but I asked my fiancé to bring up moving it, because at this point I was too scared to talk to May and was avoiding her. My fiancé refused for a while, then did and said the couch stayed, and started telling me to suck it up, her actual words. This led to us arguing and me picking the couch up over our heads and moving it to the other side of the table. At this point May said they were moving out. I said it wasn't going to work with us together in the house. My fiancé and May spent the next 6 months just telling me to stop being angry and apologize and that everything was my fault. I had felt so ashamed for this entire year. I didn't tell my friends any of this until this past week. I was constantly sent to the bedroom when May was around, though she wasn't there every day. It felt like I wasn't welcome in the house. When I asked when May was moving out, I was told she wasn't, then she was. And this kept happening. I stayed scared of May. And then my fiancé began screaming at and berating me for not having empathy, for not loving her or caring about her. I yelled too, but I also slowly began to feel hated by her, and as it went on, I just wanted to do anything to keep her happy. I apologized and was yelled at by May. This happened 3 times in a row, so I gave up. I didn't care about May anymore. She destroyed the friendship we had. I felt so unsafe. I wanted her out of my life. But I could never ask my fiancé to give up her friendship. I just didn't want her in the house. I accused my fiancé of having an emotional affair. She denied anything, but also told me May thought she has been in love with Kate, but talked it through with a psychologist and she just loves her like a sister. This struck me as weird, and a lot of my friends are calling it manipulative. But last week we hit a point. Kate had gone off and spent the night where May has been staying and told me she was staying at 10:30 p.m. She gave May $1,000 recently to fix their car. I finally talked to some friends about everything. They made me feel validated in my fear, my suspicions, and just didn't make me feel crazy anymore. I had been conflicted with how I felt. I knew I was wrong to be angry and I was sorry for my actions. And I tried to make up from them, but when I asked for the same, I got yelled at for asking. It felt like I was being told May can act however she wants and Kate will defend her, but if I step a toe out of line I will be told off. I felt like a third in my own engagement. Please let me know if you think ITA or NTA. I will try and provide any additional information if possible. Edit. I just found out that Kate has been lying to me for a few weeks about a mutual friend of ours, one of my best friends. Kate told me this friend thought I had changed and was no longer the person I was and didn't want me in their life. Due to this, I didn't reach out to them after the break until this morning. I asked how I had changed and why they didn't want me as a friend. She then denied not wanting me as a friend, told me she still loves me and wants me in her life. We've begun making plans to catch up and talk this weekend. This has made me realize that I well and truly have been manipulated and lied to, and that I'm not going crazy and losing everyone and everything. I don't know how long this has been happening, whether it's the full 5 years, or just since May has been this entwined with our relationship. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I felt like a third in my own engagement. Yep. NTA time to move on and stop supplementing fiancé and May's lifestyles. Reply, honestly, thank you so much for saying this. I started to cry because I felt like I was going mad trying to say everything. This went from me trying to get perspective to letting my feelings out, and I thought it might be incoherent rambling. Commenter 2, NTA. I strongly suggest that you have a witness with you every time you interact with either of them from now on. I guarantee they know exactly how they're triggering your anxiety and likely PTSD and are doing so intentionally because they know that they can easily manipulate you in situations once you're triggered. It genuinely isn't safe for you emotionally to be around them alone. Reply, thank you for the advice. I was planning on trying to have a friend around for dividing assets. Commenter 3, did you ever get treatment for PTSD? Did Kate keep May around because she felt unsafe because of your untreated mental health issues? Reply, I did get treatment. And in the past 6 months she did start feeling unsafe. I do need to keep going with therapy to deal with my issues. We had lived together most of our relationship without any major issues. Also at one point I was very suicidal. My psychologist told my fiancé I should be placed under a 72-hour hold. She didn't want me to go so I didn't. How were the bills split between OOP and Kate? Reply, bills are currently mostly 50-50 between me and Kate. May has always paid a lower rent. We agreed $150 before we moved in. And then almost immediately said she could only pay $100 a week until she got a job. She would then get a job, keep paying $100, and when I said I wasn't going to keep paying a third of her rent, Kate started paying instead. May also never paid more than a quarter of any bill. Whilst in law enforcement, I was covering about 60 to 70% of bills when it was just me and Kate. I was okay with that because I was making close to double what she did. OOP should get the ring back. Reply, I took the ring a few days ago and have it with me at my parents'. I'm only staying this week. OOP needs to get clean now after it seems like weed is creating the harm. Reply, I'm getting sober after this week. I realized that myself and I had quit and was good, but my fiancé always had it in the house and the temptation of it was too strong. I know I can be sober and healthy mentally, I just wasn't strong enough then to resist the temptation. OOP needs to find his spine and get this sorted out. Reply, I'm 6 feet 8 inches and have been training to fight for 8 years. I have always been such an intimidating figure that I always try to be calm and go with the flow to avoid being scary. But I do think this lead to me having issues trying to express my own needs in a relationship, because I'm desperate to not be alone. Update, Aita for not letting my fiancé's best friend live with us anymore leading to the end of our 5-year relationship. Brief recap, my fiancée Kate and I of almost 5 years broke up a month ago after moving into a house with her best friend May. I was suffering from PTSD and left my job in law enforcement. I had set some boundaries with May and she kept crossing them. She would also get angry, yell at me and get in my face, and Kate would always dismiss these outbursts. So to the update, I stayed at my parents' house for a week. After returning I didn't know if Kate would be there or not. She wasn't. She took the cat and a few items of clothing, and all our sheets and pillows. I reached out asking if she wanted to talk about things and if she was working that Wednesday because we could sit down and discuss who gets what and her moving out. She had threatened to take all the furniture during the breakup, so I wanted to sit down and actually divide the things we'd bought together between us. She said she didn't want to meet, and that she asked for my roster to collect her stuff when I'm not there. Because of her threatening to take the bed and everything else, I said I didn't want her in the house without me and would change the locks. She eventually said she wanted to do it via text, but I told her it should be in person. There are a lot of things in a lot of random places which actually needed to be sorted through. She refused. I then found out a few days later from my brother she had messaged my parents, telling them I had turned off all her fish tanks and wasn't letting her in to do anything to them. I was more than happy for her to come over whilst I was here. I just didn't trust her after finding out about a lot of her lies about my friends hating me. My parents called, and the four of us spoke. My brother confirmed the tanks were all on and were clean. My parents told me she had hired a moving crew for Tuesday to get all her stuff. My parents own the house we live in. I put a lock on the bedroom door and changed all the locks in the house. I told her Tuesday didn't work for me, but Wednesday would work. She refused and said she was coming, so I sent the list of things she wasn't to take. And she insisted on taking the entire bedroom set. I told my manager about what was happening. She knew about the breakup. I broke down at work the next day and told her. She was so understanding and actually helped a lot, and I'm so thankful for her. On Tuesday they came just before I left for work. I called my brother and he started coming towards the house. I had moved all Kate and May's belongings outside that I could find and move. Had a friend help me with May's bed. My brother arrived after I left and told me they were inside the house. I told my manager, who agreed to let me leave early when the second staff started, which was in 5 hours. My brother planted himself on the sofa, kept an eye on the bedroom and kept me updated. When I arrived they'd gutted most of the house of all of their stuff, but also a few of my items. I found more out after it was over. But she took one of my consoles and the cables to my other, so I couldn't use it. They didn't get in the bedroom or get the couch at least. I later found out they stole my cookbooks, the rice and flour and a few other weird things. However, not long after I decided to try and put myself back out there and just try and have some fun casual dates until I'm ready for something long-term. However, I quickly realized it wasn't for me anymore and I wanted something seriously. But I met someone and we immediately clicked. We were sending these huge paragraphs, info dumping to each other, and we shared a lot of the same interests and passions. We've gone out a few times now and I really like them, and I really hope this works out well, taking it slowly though. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. It doesn't sound like you're taking anything slowly, it sounds like you're trauma bonding or whatever the kids call it. In any case, best of luck with everything and hope you're feeling okay and getting the help you need. Reply. I've trauma bonded with someone before, this isn't it, and I've also been seeing a psychologist who is aware of everything. We're working on helping me recognize red flags in relationships and it is helping. Commenter 2. I have PTSD military and the mind slams are really hard to manage. I understand why you spiraled, as you couldn't properly rationalize the abuse Kate and May were throwing at you. Nor could you process it. It became part and parcel of your trauma, just another layer being added. It does get better, as I hope your psychologist is helping you see, and when others begin to cause problems that start to trigger you, you'll have new tools to stop them short. Take care and best wishes to you. Reply. You actually summed it up perfectly there, I hadn't even thought of it that way. My psychologist has been helping. After the breakup I did feel a lot of anxiety leave, but I know I've developed new ones. Thank you so much. Can OOP report Kate and May to the police for stealing? Reply. I talked to a friend who is a cop, and he said that it shouldn't have been a civil matter since they had no legal way to get inside. But he said since they made that call I have to go to court to try and get stuff back. And I can't afford to deal with legal fees at this point. I was in a more specific aspect of law enforcement. We only dealt with things within a specific region and didn't cover residential situations. So I never handled domestic violence cases or anything to do with breaking and entering. I know the general idea, but I wanted to confirm since he has experience in those areas. OOP shouldn't have let Kate into the house. Reply. I didn't, the doors were locked, she came in through a window and unlocked everything from the inside. My brother arrived and texted me they were inside. I couldn't stop her retrieving her property, it would be theft, so it was placed in the garage with the exception of boxes I had yet to sort through to gather New York belongings from. I told them to not enter the house in person and via message. Commenter 3. You broke up your engagement a month ago, perhaps lay off the dating and stay single and focus on your mental health and well-being. Reply. My biggest issue was a lack of safety in my home. In the past month I have regained that safety. We've been on 3 dates in the past week and a half for a few hours each time, we're both pretty busy and won't see each other for a bit. But we text and call, not ready for a serious relationship because I need to work on myself and they are understanding of that. I'm also talking with a psychologist who is giving me some good tools and mechanisms to recognize any abuse signs. Commenter 4, let the things go. They're things and can be replaced. May and Kate are absolutely together. They've been a couple this entire time and you've been a cash cow. You survived on the job trauma and an abusive relationship. Do yourself a favor, get yourself a pet. I like cats but dogs are good, too, from the shelter. No, don't go to a breeder. Specifically get a rescue. Why? It's hard to explain but there's healing to be had there. Then go and just therapy. Just work on you and get healed. Keep us updated. Reply, that's actually my entire plan. I replaced the console, I plan on going to a shelter soon, I have been rearranging the house. Had too many echoes of them. I would love a dog but I wouldn't have the time with my schedule, so I'm getting a cat because I miss the one we shared and it'll be easier and cheaper. I don't think there will be any more updates unless she takes me to court. Commenter 5, please consider getting some professional counseling, or you may end up in the same situation as before. If money is an issue, then consider free support groups such as ACA Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. If you haven't been in a war, I suspect your PTSD has come from your childhood. In that case, it's worse than someone who has been in a war, because it was abusive for a very long time and inescapable, causing complex PTSD or CPTSD. And, males from this situation often go into law enforcement, which makes it even worse. It will take 2 years of serious emotional work to find your true self and live it. So, for your sake, no serious relationships until you've done the work. Reply, you're actually the first person to make this type of assertion and be right. I have a lot of childhood trauma that I am currently working on with my psychologist. I have had previous PTSD diagnoses, but working with my current one to figure out if CPTSD is more fitting. My psych's main goal is recognition of red flags and how to healthily set and then reinforce my boundaries. I still use a lot of the methods from my previous times in therapy which do help. But I can recognize that I've developed new anxieties and I probably have some triggers I'm not aware of yet. Commenter 6, God luck in your new relationship. Don't let people treat you the way May and Kate did. Most importantly, rely on your support system when you second-guess yourself. Do let people gaslight you into apologizing. Stay happy out there. Reply, honestly they've already shown me a lot more care and attention. I told them about a book I had been looking for 5 years on our first date. On our second they told me they found and ordered it for me, which is something Kate would never have done. My psych is helping me recognize toxic patterns to avoid, and my friends are helping a lot. Stories number 2. Aita for laughing when my stepmother was crying over my father cheating on her. Pretty recently my stepmother found out that my father has cheated on her a ton throughout the relationship. He fathered 2 kids with other women since they were married and they have 4 kids together who are all really young. There were a bunch of tears in the first couple of weeks and since then the tears have been less but the fighting got more intense. Then she invited her sisters over a few days ago. They were talking about it and she kept asking me 17F to join them but I ignored her. Then she started crying about how humiliated and disrespected she felt and how she couldn't believe he was capable of doing that to someone he loves. I laughed loud enough for my stepmother and her sisters to hear and they started demanding I come in and take a look at her and see how easy it would be to laugh then. One of her sisters actually approached me and told me I should be helping my stepmother right now, not laughing. I told her I wasn't going to help someone I never liked or cared about. While one of her sisters was with me the others were reassuring her that it'd be okay and stuff like that. But she was getting more upset about the disrespect and how their love was meant to be perfect and the most special love of all time. So then her sister dragged me into the room they were in because I was kinda laughing again. She asked me how I could laugh at my stepmother's pain like that. I told them because I didn't care if she was in pain and I thought she was a dumb bitch anyway. They were all over me for being cruel and for disrespecting the only mother I ever knew like that. I told them to shut the fuck up and that was exactly why I felt no sympathy for her. I told them I had a mom for 5 years and as soon as she died Dad went out and replaced her and they tried everything to make me replace her too. I said he doesn't care about women he's married to and he disrespected my mom long before he disrespected my stepmother. She told me that wasn't fair and it's different. I asked her how she'd like to die and leave her very young kids without her and months later they're being told a better mom is coming along. She told me my mom had been a really poor mom too and mom was in no way perfect and I asked her if she thought she was. And did she ever think he was just a user and he didn't want to raise me, so he badmouthed mom to her. Then I told her I might have been a little girl when she came into my life, but I would always despise her for constantly talking like she was better than my real mom. And I said all her talk over the years about their love being special and the true love was all BS, just like it was when my parents were married. At that point they started to gang up on me again and my stepmother started crying again, so I left, but I was smirking and they were all really pissed off at me because they said I was basically laughing at her again, and it's so cruel. The stuff I said to her I stand by. Even my dad's extended family all said my mom was not who dad painted her to be. And for a dad so great with a dead wife who did nothing but neglect me, he didn't know shit. He told my stepmother when they met that I was in the 2nd grade. I was 5. He also told her I had no allergies when I do have allergies. He couldn't name my teacher, my allergist, or the medication I was on to help with some symptoms I got sometimes from my allergies. But maybe laughing at her did make me cruel. It's why I'm asking Aita. Comments. Commenter 1. Just keep being you. Reply. I'm trying. I can't wait to get out of here forever. Commenter 2. As soon as you turn 18, run and don't ever look back. Your dad is a toxic dumpster fire. Reply. That's the plan. I've got a job, I've got pretty good grades, I have a place to go when I'm 18 and I'm just waiting for that day to come. It really can't come soon enough. Commenter 3. You didn't laugh because you are cruel, you laughed because after years of being forced to accept a replacement for your mom, the perfect love story finally cracked. That wasn't joy, it was pain coming out sideways. You're not the asshole, you're a kid who never got space to grieve. Stories number 3. My mom said my wedding was just okay at my twins' wedding, and she still doesn't know she's no longer welcome in our home. I 27F got married in October 2024 to my now husband 28M, a military reservist. We had a small mountain wedding after surviving a long deployment, and it was everything we hoped for. Leading up to it, my mom 61F emotionally blew up on us, crying, saying we didn't include her, and even told my husband he ruined our relationship. She apologized to me, but never to him like she promised. Still, we let her come. She even brought her sister not invited and I didn't have the energy to say no. Fast forward to my twin sister's destination wedding this spring. I was the maid of honor. My mom was drinking, and at the rehearsal dinner, she told my sister in front of my husband, their wedding was okay, but this is beautiful. He didn't tell me until later that night because he didn't want to ruin the day. That comment crushed him. When we got home, we made the hard decision, she's no longer welcome to stay in our home. That was in April. It's now July. She has no idea. Since then, we've only had vague phone calls, and now she's saying she wants to come visit to change up her scenery. She can't drive anymore, so if she visits, she'd be fully dependent on us to get around and would definitely expect to stay with us. I'm frozen. I don't know how to say, you can come to dinner, but you're not staying here. I feel like I've been protecting everyone else's feelings for years while mine get ignored. I love her, but I'm drained. Has anyone ever had to say something like this to a parent? How do you set this kind of boundary without feeling like a terrible daughter? Comments. Commenter 1. Boundaries only matter if you're willing to enforce them. She treated your husband like crap, refused to apologize, and insults you both when she thinks you're not listening. At some point, you need to decide, are your mom's feelings more valid and important than your husband's? Are they more important than yours? If you keep putting your mom first, your husband is going to realize that when push comes to shove, you bend over. Commenter 2. You realize we're upset with you, right? You shit-talked my wedding to people at *twins wedding, and that really sucked. You've not only disrespected me but you've disrespected my husband, and honestly, I don't want to see you for a while, so until I'm ready, the answer is going to be no. I'd go no contact, but it doesn't sound like you're gonna go for that. Update. My mom said my wedding was just okay at my twins' wedding, and she still doesn't know she's no longer welcome in our home. My husband 28M and I 27F started dating in 2021, engaged in December 2023, married October 2024. My relationship with my mom 61F has been complicated for years due to her alcoholism, volatility, and lack of accountability. She was minimally supportive during our wedding planning and made choices that hurt me. At my twin sister's destination wedding this year, my mom made multiple passive-aggressive comments, including telling my sister that her wedding was so much better than mine. My husband heard it, I didn't. After the trip, my husband and I agreed she would no longer be welcome to stay in our home. Since April, we've had very limited contact. The recent conversation, I finally called my mom to talk about it. She immediately denied saying anything hurtful and essentially called my husband a liar. We went back and forth, and she eventually agreed to call and apologize to him directly. She asked for his work schedule, I gave it to her, and she said she'd call. Then, instead of following through, she texted saying she wanted a three-way call instead, reframing the situation as a misunderstanding or relay of communication. I told her clearly this wasn't about miscommunication, it was about words that were said and how they made us feel. What we needed first was ownership and an apology. Her reply was that she's been accused of speaking without thinking and now wants to talk with her sister my aunt before speaking with us again. She said she'll let us know when she's ready. The unexpected twist. The day after my mom said she wanted to talk with my aunt before speaking to us again, my aunt texted me out of the blue, "Call me when you have a minute to talk. No one knows I am reaching out to you, so please don't mention it." I called her, and we had an incredibly validating conversation. She's been through almost the exact same dynamic with their mom and with my mom, constant comparisons, disapproval of her spouse, judgment about her life choices. She told me my mom has never taken genuine accountability or given a real apology, and likely never will. She encouraged me to stop chasing approval, keep my focus on my marriage, and keep any interactions with my mom surface level and drama-free. Later in the call, I told her that my mom had said she wanted to speak with her before reaching out to us again. The very next morning, my aunt texted me, "Your mom talked to me when we were having coffee this morning. I will call you later today to let you know what we discussed." I didn't tell her that you and I talked yesterday, nor did I start the conversation, she did. When she called later, she gave my husband the lowdown on what we discussed the day before and shared what my mom had said. At one point, my mom apparently asked my aunt if she should apologize to us, and my aunt told her no, because she believed it wouldn't be genuine anyway. Where things stand now. Despite my aunt's advice, my mom still texted both my husband and me in a group chat asking when my husband had time this week to talk, after putting us off with excuses multiple times. At that point, my husband 28M was fully done. He doesn't want to keep going in circles, and I don't blame him. For me, it's sad to accept that my mom may never be the type to take real accountability or give a genuine apology. I know it's going to take me some time to heal and move forward, but I also know that low contact, at least for now, is best for my mental health and for my marriage. I'll be focusing on my life with my husband, keeping boundaries in place, and leaning on my aunt and of course my husband for support when I need it. Comments. Commenter 1. Hugs. One thing I have learned both through therapy and Reddit groups is that chasing my mom for a change just stressed me out. The minute I learned to say, she was the best mother she could be versus she is a good mother to me, or that I needed, did my thinking change. You need to work in that she loves you, but she doesn't know what you need and quite possibly can't give it to you. She will not change, but you don't need to change either. Your expectations need to change. Commenter 2. I understand your aunt's reasoning in her head as to why she told your mom not to apologize, but I worry your aunt telling your mom not to apologize may be taken wrong. I see your mom using that as validating she did nothing wrong and doesn't owe you an apology. Stories number 4. Aita for refusing to drive my coworker home when she never pays for gas. I've been giving my coworker rides home for almost a year. She lives about 25 minutes from work, and I live 20 minutes in the opposite direction. Basically, I've been adding almost an hour to my commute just to help her out. At first I didn't mind because she asked nicely and I figured she'd pitch in for gas. She's never offered, not once. Gas isn't cheap, and I'm already barely scraping by. Meanwhile she's always talking about the new skincare she bought, eating takeout every day, and bragging about weekend trips. I'm sitting there fuming in my car, thinking, cool, glad my money's going into your Sephora fund. I've hinted a bunch of times complaining about how often I fill up, mentioning how expensive gas is. She just laughs or says, "At least you have company." Company doesn't pay for my tank, girl. Last week I finally told her, "Hey, could you help with gas sometimes?" She looked totally offended and said, "Wow, I didn't know you expected money. I thought you were just being nice." Since then, she's been giving me attitude at work. Now I just keep going over it in my head, feeling bad for even saying anything. Part of me thinks I should have just shut up and kept driving, but then I get pissed because it really wasn't fair. Comments. Commenter 1. She was taking advantage of your kindness. You're going way out of your way and spending money you don't have, and she never once offered to help. That's not fair at all. Reply. I didn't mind helping once in a while, but it turned into an expectation and I was the only one paying for it. Commenter 2. You should never have given her ride in the first place. So now you're gonna have to deal with fallout for work drama. Stand by your guns, don't give her a ride anymore. Reply, lesson learned, no more rides, and I'll deal with whatever comes at work. Commenter 3, you shouldn't have let it go on so long, especially since it wasn't on your way. She doesn't respect you as well, she was taking advantage of you. You should be careful at work and let someone know, such as your supervisor and/or HR, what the issue is, as a defense against her making false claims about you. Stories number 5. AIO for leaving my boyfriend at the restaurant after he ordered for me. I don't even know where to start because I'm still mad about it. I'm 22F, he's 23M. We went to this place I've been bugging him about forever, they had the pasta I wanted, I was staring at it all week. Server comes over and before I can even open my mouth he's already talking. Salmon for her, steak for me. I was literally still holding the menu. I said wait, I wanted the pasta, and he just said you always change your mind anyway and trust me, this is better. The weird part is he didn't say it mean, he smiled at me like he thought he was doing something nice. Like his dad does this chivalry thing sometimes when we go out with them, maybe he thought it was like, gentlemanly ick. Server looked at me like should I switch it, I was about to nod and my BF cut in no it's fine. I just kind of shut down. The drink I ordered, gin tonic, super strong, came before the food and I just sat there sipping it. When the salmon showed up I tried a bite, nope. Breadsticks tasted better. I pushed the plate away and he said I was wasting money and kind of laughed, but not in a cruel way, more like he didn't get why I was mad. I paid for my drink at the bar, texted for a ride and left. I didn't even say bye. Later he texted saying I made him look dumb and he was trying to be thoughtful, that his mom always said it's nice when a guy takes care of stuff. I told him letting me order my own food isn't exactly hard. He hasn't answered since. If I'm being extra over pasta or if it's actually a big deal. Comments. Commenter 1. Chivalry is opening a door for you. Ordering for you and telling you what to eat is controlling. It is actually a big thing. Even if he knows what you want and you normally order the same thing, it's polite to say your usual babe. Before ordering. You went for the pasta, he knew you wanted pasta, and he still treated you like a 5-year-old who didn't understand a menu. And he did it with a happy smile as if he'd cured cancer. Hopefully the relationship is over. He's not talking to you, which is childish, but good. You can move on, and when he finally gets in contact again you can go, who dis? Oh, I deleted your number. Why are you calling me? We broke up. The silent treatment is meant as a punishment. It doesn't work when a 5-year-old does it, so don't let it work on you. And yes, it's nice when a guy takes care of stuff. But that usually means taking the bins out without being asked and doing the washing up after dinner. Commenter 2. I had this happen to me by my long-term fiancé at the time. I ordered what I wanted, he corrected me and overruled my order, the server took the man's instruction and I ended up with something no way in hell would I ever had wanted. One of just so many red flags I tried to ignore. Worse than that, it was my birthday which he had 99% ignored, so this was just icing on my suckiest birthday ever cake. I do not miss that hideously controlling man. This is just one of hundreds of controlling situations I endured. Love is so damn blind at times. Commenter 3. Honestly, that's a man who wants a subservient woman. You failed his test and that's good because that's not who you are. It's pasta today, what you're wearing tomorrow, and who you're talking you a week from now. It's why are you working overtime a month from now and stop wearing yoga pants a year from now. A slippery slope that you stopped yourself from falling down. Feel proud because most people don't see it until it's too late. Reply, yeah, that's exactly how it felt to me. Like I know some people think it's old-fashioned or whatever, but when I said what I wanted and he still shut it down, it stopped being cute. Stories number 6. Aita for holding my brother's affair baby the day before my wedding and upsetting my sister-in-law. I 22F got married last fall. My sister-in-law Mary 34F, my brother Joe 34M, and his girlfriend Susan 30F are the main people in this story. Joe met Mary when I was 6, so she's basically been in my life forever. She was like the big sister, I looked up to her, copied her style, wanted to be just like her. Then about 2 years ago, Joe started an affair with a coworker, Susan, and it ended up with a baby. The second I found out, I was on Mary's side. I wrote her a character letter for court if she needed it, and my whole family supported her since she and Joe have 4 kids together. Fast forward, the baby is born. I sent Joe a wedding invitation but made it super clear, don't bring Susan or the baby. It just wasn't the right time for everyone to meet. Honestly, I even considered uninviting Joe completely so Mary would feel more comfortable. She was actually hopeful I'd do that, but then my dad, who is still furious at Joe, BTW, told me, "You'll regret not inviting your brother, he'll never forget it." My dad rarely chimes in, so I listened. I told Mary Joe was still coming, and she was hurt. She decided she'd only come to the ceremony, which I understood. For context, Joe literally had Susan and the baby wait in the car during the church part, then she went back to the hotel before the reception. Here's where it blew up. The day before the wedding, Joe dropped one of his kids off to help me decorate. In his car. Susan and the baby. Later that day he picked up his kid with Susan and the baby again. It was awkward, but I wanted to be polite. I held the baby for a minute. My niece took a picture, and somehow Mary saw it later that day. I wasn't planning on telling her right then because I didn't want drama before the wedding. The morning of my wedding, Mary was sitting at breakfast looking sad. I hugged her, told her she looked pretty, then went to make toast. Out of nowhere she said, "Why do you want to hurt me?" She said stuff like someone should do a DNA test, no one stands up to him, and even maybe I shouldn't come to your wedding. I just apologized and said I didn't know how to handle the situation. At one point I said stupidly, "I can't make everyone happy." I tried to reassure her that she was important to me. I'd even written her a long personal letter to give at the wedding, but she stormed off. It's been 10 months. I've apologized twice for not handling things well and reached out about other stuff. At first she left me on read. Months later she finally texted me something vague about how she thought we were forever family and regretted opening up so much. It crushed me. I told her I still wanted her in my life forever, like a true sister. Now we only text about the kids or random small things. Haven't seen her in person since. She did apologize to my parents for ruining my wedding morning, but she's never apologized to me. So. Aita for holding my brother's baby. Stories number 7. My 27F recently married poly friend 23F texted me about control issues with husband 28M, please help. My friend and ex-roommate, Sarah, is polyandrous and has been poly for 5 years. Last year she reconnected with an old partner, Ryan, and they rapidly became engaged with the goal of saving up and moving him out of the state he lives in now to the state we live in. He was aware of her other partners and supposedly fine with her being poly and them having an open relationship. About 4 months ago, Sarah decided to move to Ryan's state to get started on saving money and planning the wedding. Since she now lived 7 hours and 400 miles away, we didn't hear from her much and figured everything was fine. At the wedding 3 weeks ago, Ryan seemed very agitated and did not make any attempt to engage with me or her other friends. He was especially hostile to one of Sarah's other partners, Clint, who had managed to come down for the event. Sarah and Clint managed to get some alone time to talk when Clint was leaving, but Ryan found out and was very upset about it. I talked with Clint and Sarah about it individually, but didn't hear much until last night. Sarah texts me in hysterics because Ryan is making her choose between him and Clint, essentially giving her an ultimatum. He has done this in the past, giving her an ultimatum to come visit him or it's over, and had promised not to do it in the future when she called him out on how abusive and shitty that is. I try to calm Sarah down and talk about how unfair that is, especially when they had agreed to be poly. She insists that because she met with Clint alone for 5 minutes when she had told Ryan she wouldn't, that she is a liar and always lies to him, and how can he trust her? Her texts become more and more self-flagellating. I continue trying to calm her down and eventually mention that if Ryan is holding things from the past and making her feel bad for them and forcing her to apologize over and over, he is being abusive. At this point she tells me that Ryan has been dictating her texts and reading over her shoulder the whole time and tells me to respond in a certain way if I got that message. I'm not sure what to do. I love this girl like a sister and it's really hard for me to not get in the car and go get her. Please help. TLDR, poly friend got married, her new husband is trying to make her choose between him and her other partner and has been monitoring and dictating her texts. How can I help? I'm helping a friend leave her abusive husband and need help. A friend recently moved across state lines to marry her husband. Shortly after the wedding it became clear that he was emotionally abusing and manipulating her, limiting her contacts with non-local friends, getting upset when her friends back home were mentioned, accusing her of lying to him and being deceptive, reading her texts and Facebook messages, etc. Last night at 4 a.m. I received a message from her saying that they were over and she wants to come home. I heard from one of her closest friends in my state that she had asked him to call the police for her and is staying with friends until she can decide what to do. She currently lives about 8 hours away from us and has a cat and dog, so moving her back home is going to be tricky. We are planning to have her close friend, a 6 feet 2 inches gym nut, my fiancé, another 6-foot gym nut, and me, an average-sized girl, moving her out. Does anyone have advice, suggestions, and cautions for us moving forward as we help her come home and leave this situation? Any guidance is deeply appreciated. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Try to set it up for when he's just gone to work assuming he has a job and call the local police department to see if they'll send someone out just to observe and make sure there's no violence. I've been one of the movers in that situation before. Their presence usually keeps things from escalating and eliminates the possibility of a possible assault charge or he said/she said type legal entanglements. Also, once the moving starts, don't stop it to have an argument. Just keep moving stuff till it's done. OOP gave this comment that could be useful for people in abusive relationships in CA. I know there's a moving company in California that will help abuse victims move for discounted prices or for free. Does anyone know of something like that in the Southeast US? Update, thank you so much. We were able to drive down with our convoy, move her out, and bring her home with us last night and early this morning. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the officers of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for helping us keep the process peaceful and as streamlined as possible. If you or a loved one is a LEO who helps in these situations, please know you are saving lives and we can't thank you enough. Stories number 8. No, you hating children is not normal. I keep seeing this trend, mostly online, where people say that they hate kids, don't want to see them in public, they should stay at home blah blah blah, as if it's some kind of progressive take. Sorry, but it's not. It's just discrimination against an entire group of people. Children are a huge demographic of our society. They are literally people, even if they're younger and loud. If someone said I hate people of different race/nationality, I don't want to see them in public, everyone would instantly call them out for being prejudiced and exclusionary. But when someone says the exact same thing about kids, suddenly it's met with agreement. How does that make sense? We live in communities. Communities include kids, adults, seniors. If anything, what's actually progressive is building a society where everyone has space, kids, parents, child-free adults, the elderly, everyone. Because children aren't going away, and acting like their presence in public is some kind of problem is not only absurd, it's actively dehumanizing. Edit. Because I got some comments, I'll clarify that I don't have kids and I don't plan on having them soon or ever. Also, I am woman in my 20s. Comments. Commenter 1. I just moved to Spain from the U.S. and I was shocked at how nice everyone is to kids here in public spaces. Reply. Yes, I'm from Europe and I noticed that people from the US often have much stronger feelings on this topic. Commenter 2. Exactly. I hate when people talk about children as if their behavior isn't almost always a direct result of their environment and how they're being raised. Barring a mental health or neurodevelopment issue, well-behaved children are well-behaved because a caregiver has invested time, love, and energy into parenting them. You can't just throw a kid in front of a TV or a tablet and expect them to be well-behaved. Commenter 3. It's extra ironic because the US is dead set on forcing every woman to pop out as many babies as she can, starting as young as she can, with no resources to help her raise them. Commenter 4. A lot of kids are raised by entitled parents who think other people just need to put up with their child, so they don't bother to teach kids not to cause disruptions for people and to respect public spaces. There are plenty of cultures that have more well-behaved children. East Asian cultures, many European cultures, etc. It's not kids themselves, it's part of the hyper-individualistic American culture. I totally get that you are not entitled to a child-free world, but no one's is really asking for that. Don't act like a victim when people are bothered by your kids being badly behaved. We are asking you to pacify your child in public spaces to the best of your ability. Not ignore them while they are being a nuisance. My parents used to drag my sister and I out of restaurants and stores if we started fussing, and we learned very young the concept of being respectful and well-mannered in public. Same with my niece, she's only 4 and she's already made a lot of progress with her public behavior because of consistent corrections. We also teach her about how to behave in libraries, at restaurants, stores, possibly soon the movies, etc. And explain to her why we do certain things for the comfort/focus of other patrons. It can be a repetitive and sometimes frustrating task, but it's important to do it. Stories number 9. My M23 wife's F29 childhood friend F27 tried to get me to have sex with her because it was her birthday. How to break the muse without causing fallout. I love my wife to death and I'd never cheat on her. Her friend is always around and she is like involved in most of our life aspects. I really don't mind. She has been respectful and not gotten involved in our problems. My wife loves her to death like her own sister. They are inseparable and I know my wife relied on her a lot while she was pregnant because I worked extra long hours to save money for the baby's needs. She helps us babysit when we need a break and she had been respectful with me all before the incident. For her birthday we threw her a small get-together. My wife and her had some drinks together and I joined them halfway through. It got late and my wife went to sleep with the baby. I went to the living room to watch some Netflix and her friend asked if she could watch with me. It's not out of the ordinary for us to all watch movies together or have game nights, so I let her watch TV with me with boundaries, of course. It was all normal until she got closer and closer and leaned her head on me. I asked if she was okay and she said yes, she was just tired. She got the wrong signals from me I guess, and she started kissing me and she put her hand in my shorts and she put my hand on her chest. I was so shocked I froze for a couple seconds and I pushed her off of me. She begged me to at least give her that for her birthday since she was so lonely and wanted attention from a man, and I told her she was betraying my wife, her closest friend. She begged me again until I walked away and she asked me to no snitch her out. This has been eating away at me, but I don't know how to tell my wife. She's going to be so disappointed and this is her only trustworthy friend. I am so disappointed in her friend myself. How do I let my wife know this happened? I don't want her to find out later and think I cheated on her. Comments. Commenter 1. Tell your wife now before her friend does. Commenter 2. You have to tell your wife before she does. I can just see her trying to reframe it as you coming on to her. She's willing to fuck over her best friend, so who knows what she'll do. Just be honest with your wife. Sit her down, be factual and honest. She's going to be upset and a little angry because you didn't tell her right away, and that's okay. You handle it. You assure her. You reassure her. Just tell her as soon as possible. The longer you leave this, the worse it will be. You should have just said something the night of, but what's done is done. Tell her ASAP. Just rip off the band-aid. Commenter 3. This should cause a fallout. Her friend came on to you behind your wife's back. That is a fallout for a friendship. And if you don't tell your wife immediately, you are going to make this insanely worse on yourself. The time to tell her was the moment it happened, the night of. The longer you sit on this, the more guilty you will look. Just more problems. Tell her ASAP. Things will fall apart for her friendship. Any sane person would end a friendship based on this. If this friend beats you to the punch, you're screwed. It will be her version of events over yours since she took the lead in coming clean. The one who comes clean first will always look more like the innocent one instead of the guilty one. Stories number 10. Aita for grabbing a teenager's phone after he took a picture of me at the gym. I 32F was at my local gym last week, finishing up a workout. I headed into the women's locker room to grab my stuff and change. The gym recently started allowing teens in with parental permission, and that day, a group of boys around 16 were hanging out near the entrance, waiting for their moms who were in a Zumba class. As I walked past, one of them made a crude comment and then I heard the shutter sound of a phone camera. I turned around and saw him laughing with his friends. He'd taken a photo of my backside. I walked straight up, grabbed his phone, and told him to delete the photo. He refused, saying it was just a joke. I wasn't having it. I went to the front desk and reported the incident. His mom was called, and instead of apologizing, she accused me of manhandling her son and violating his privacy. The gym manager reviewed the security footage, which clearly showed him taking the photo, but didn't catch my reaction. Police were called. I was told I could press harassment charges, but the mom threatened to sue me for assault. In the end, the gym banned the boy and his friends for 6 months. But I left feeling shaken and honestly kind of unsupported. When I shared the story online, some people said I should have just let it go, while others said I did the right thing. My husband thinks I might have overreacted. I don't. I felt violated, and I stood up for myself. But now I'm wondering. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. File those charges on that POS kid parent. Let her try to file assault on you, it'll get laughed right out of court. Stories number 11. Aita for saying no when my parents expected me to sacrifice for someone else again and saying they take advantage of me being mature. I'm 17, am a pretty laid-back guy. I was always a good kid and my parents' oldest, so that meant they always treated me more like a mini-adult than one of the kids. There were comments from loads of family members and family friends about me being mature and so mature for my age being the one I hear all the time even now. For a while I didn't mind because I loved my family and I told myself they really loved me too and that was all that mattered. But it started to hurt when they always expected me to go without or to give something up. Whenever money's tight they spend less on me to make sure they can still spend reasonably on my siblings. Last year I got a $5 gift card for a candy store and I was extremely limited in what I could get for that gift card. Another year they got me sweatpants and a hoodie in a thrift store and they forgot to make sure it was okay because there were shit stains inside and outside on the sweats. Another money but not gift example is we eat out pretty often. My parents like to get us to take it in turns to choose where we go. Whenever money's tight they'll let all my siblings have their turn and ask me to skip mine and skip eating out, that way none of my siblings feel like they missed out by waiting longer to let me have my turn. The other money thing is after school activities. If my parents wants to save money they ask me to skip for a few weeks so they don't have to pay for me. They never ask my siblings to do the same. Other times they do it is when we're running tight on time when we go somewhere and my parents will ask to skip where I wanted to go so all my siblings have their chance. This happens when we have other kids with us too and I'm always last and first / only to sacrifice going where I wanted to go. Other times if there's a clash of events they'll choose to skip mine to make time for others, be it my siblings, cousins, or someone else in the family. A good example of this is when I was younger my mom insisted we should all learn an instrument, something she got over with the cost, and I was actually pretty decent at piano. So I was in a recital and the teacher was saying how important it was. But one of my siblings was asked to play their instrument for the choir and my cousin had a football game and this cousin invited us personally and my aunt dad's sister expressed how important it was that as many show as possible. So mom went to my siblings' choir and dad went to the football game. Nobody went to my recital. Taking turns on picking stuff happens for a few other things, like dinner on Fridays. Unless it's a birthday then the birthday kid gets the choice regardless of turns, mostly, or where we go / what we do for family bonding time. And just like with ordering takeout my turn gets skipped if other stuff comes up. If they have friends over. If we get busy and siblings complain about waiting for their turn too long. If they want to go somewhere really bad and whine about a different choice. The thing is nobody ever sacrifices when there's somewhere I really want to go. I told my parents after last year's birthday that it hurt my feelings that it was always me who got less or sacrificed and nobody ever offered to do that for me. I told them it made me feel like I didn't matter as much and they were like, no, you're our most giving and kindest kid and you're a good son, brother, cousin and stuff. And I brought it up a couple of weeks later and I was hugged and told they loved me and of course they didn't want me to feel that way. Then I tried a third time after a few more weeks and my siblings whined over my choice of family time. I told my parents I was starting to think they weren't serious about not wanting me to feel less cared for. I think I tried 3 more times with no results. I talked to my siblings too and got nowhere with them, which wasn't a huge surprise. So last time, one of those times I was expected to be passed over, I said no when my parents asked if that was okay with me. They were so sure of my yes it didn't register with them at first and then it did and I was asked why I was being difficult. Why was it such a problem this time, and to remember my siblings are younger. They said I'm so mature so they know I understand, and I said they take advantage of that mature stuff and I'm tired of feeling hurt when they pass over me all the time. They couldn't believe I'd accuse them of that. But am I wrong? Things have been tense since, and by not taking back my no I pissed off my whole family including extended family. Comments. Commenter 1. Just stop engaging. Don't go to family bonding events, don't go out for dinner. Spend your time doing what you want and start giving them back the energy they give you. They're used to you making them feel comfortable in their mistreatment by rolling over. Make it uncomfortable for them, make them feel guilty. They should. Tell them you're putting yourself first because no one else does. Commenter 2. This is something I would do all the way. I also recommend getting a job and to start saving money. You never know what they will do when you hit 18. They could start charging rent or tell you to find another place. That way they would have more money to spend on the younger ones. Commenter 3. You're NTA. But the good news is you're almost 18 and there is a wide world out there. Go to college if you can or get a job after high school. Save up and move out. And don't look back. You need to focus on yourself and your well-being, so when they inevitably call you asking for money or to watch the kids or whatever, just say no. Even better if you can move far away. Good luck, OP. Your parents objectively suck, but hopefully there is light at the end of the tunnel. Reply. I have a part-time job and already have some savings. It's not a lot, but it helps me feel like I could fall back on that if I had to. Like last year when I got a $5 gift card that bought me basically nothing. Thanks. I want to say my parents could still do better, but I'm losing hope of that happening. Stories number 12. Aita for blocking my friend of 10 years after she committed a HIPAA violation against me. I 23F blocked my longtime friend Alice 23F of 10 years after she used her work computer to look up my health insurance information without my consent. The worst part is she took a photo of it, sent it through messages which her boyfriend of 1 year has access to. Some context: from my POV, her boyfriend is leeching off of her. She spent thousands of dollars on dates, including a motorcycle that was impounded by police because he didn't bother getting his license or permit. He has used her credit card to buy drugs, has driven her car while intoxicated, and uses everything she owns, including her laptop that he uses to read all of her private conversations. I fear he is isolating her from everyone around her, and it's working. When I saw the photo, she laughed it off, and I was scared but pissed. I asked her why she would do that and she said she was just curious. I asked her how stupid she could be, not knowing what HIPAA was if she works at a doctor's clinic. She never responded and left me on read, I assumed to run to our other friend Bella. No real apology or accountability. After 2 weeks, I blocked her. I confided in Bella and Clara about the situation. Clara was incredibly understanding, not understanding what possessed A to do this. Bella on the other hand loves to play devil's advocate and has always had animosity towards me. Bella said that Alice only had good intentions and that she was only being playful and trying to connect with me as a friend. I found BS and explained that if Alice wanted to connect with me, she could have been an adult and communicated with me, asking for permission before risking her job, committing a HIPAA violation and possibly leaking my information. I told Bella, what if my SSN was on there? What if A's boyfriend saw it as an opportunity to take credit cards out in my name? Days pass, Bella wants to hang out. I agree, but informed her that I had blocked Alice and that we were no longer friends. I told her that she and Clara were welcome to stay friends with Alice, but that I want to hang out separately. Bella leaves me on read and doesn't reply for days. When she does, she responds along the lines of, I'm sorry that I hurt you, but that if you didn't want my opinion, you should have said so, and next time, I'll keep it to myself. It's clear we both have very different opinions about things. IDK, it felt like she was pushing the blame back to me instead of taking accountability. This week, Clara and I were supposed to hang out. She flaked the first day, claiming she took an extra shift but then ghosted me completely the second time. After a few days, she apologized, and asked if I'm free this weekend. I said, depends, have you heard from Bella? She replied, yeah, I went out with her yesterday, why? Did you want to do something with all of us together? I realized that Bella, who mentioned in her apology text that Clara mentioned a jewelry stand and that we should all had gone with Clara to that same stand the day Clara and I were supposed to hang out. After Bella dropped Clara off, she texted me with the apology message. I've been trying to spend time with both only to be ghosted and left behind. I feel like they used the opportunity to discuss things behind my back. Now, I feel like I'm being iced out. I'm starting to feel like they're planning some intervention/ambush to get me to forgive Alice. The trust is gone and I feel hurt. I've tried being honest and setting boundaries, but now I'm wondering if I'm being excluded for standing up for myself. Now I'm wondering, AITA for blocking Alice over this? And WIPTA if I distanced myself from Bella and Clara too? Any thoughts? Comments? Commenter 1, please report her to her workplace. She obviously has no idea about medical confidentiality and she is incredibly unprofessional. Reply, already did through my insurance. Commenter 2, don't just rely on your insurance. Report her to her employer. Commenter 3, HIPAA exists because of shit like your friend is pulling. I promise it's not just you she's doing this to. I know everyone else said report to her work in the state, but I would also report federally. Yes, I know it's in shambles, but it can't hurt to report there too. Also find a new friend group that's made up actual adults and not a bunch of mean girls still stuck in middle school. Update, a quick recap of my original post with new names. My best friend of 10 years, A is now Alice, used her work computer to look up my health insurance information, took a photo using her phone and sent me the screenshot through messages. Alice works at a doctor's clinic and her boyfriend has access to her messages via her laptop that he uses. After no sincere apology and no response from her, I blocked her. After explaining what happened to be is now Bella, who usually plays devil's advocate, dismissed my concerns, claiming Alice was just trying to be playful and was only trying to connect with me. I spoke to C as now Cassie, who was the only one who saw the absurdity and seriousness of it all. But after Cassie went out with Bella, one the days we were supposed to hang out, Cassie ghosted me out of nowhere. I was left feeling iced out, hurt and confused. There were a lot of questions, so here's some clarification. Update will be down below. Why did she look up my information and take a photo? I have been dealing with health issues that are progressively getting worse and I have no answers and had no decent doctor. I think she took it upon herself to try and help by looking up my health insurance information. When asked why, she texted she was curious. I know she had good intentions but I never gave her permission to look up my info or take a photo. If Alice had just asked me, I would have said no since I didn't want her jeopardizing her job. But also, if she would have only asked me, I would have let her know that I had already found a new doctor. Who did she send the photo to? As far as I know, just me. But her boyfriend uses her laptop and basically everything she owns. I believe he's read our conversations, which I had no clue until he brought up my health concerns that I confided in Alice and has also sent me a few messages not clarifying it was him. So there was a very real possibility he saw the photo. More info, my SSN was not in the photo. I only said, what if it was? If it was, it would have been more serious. My name, address, birthday, and health insurance information was on there. Now for the update. After posting, I filed an official HIPAA complaint through the OCR website after many comments suggested it. I also reflected on this friend group and realized we had all been drifting apart for some time now. Even before the incident, Alice and I were growing apart. Bella started showing more signs of animosity and resentment here and there. But Cassie? We were actually growing closer, so when she started ghosting me, I was left hurt and confused. Later, Bella sent me a text inviting me to a group hangout with some of her friends, including Cassie but not Alice. I assumed this was an intervention disguised as a hangout to maybe mend things between Alice, but I can't be for certain. I replied that while I appreciated the thought, I was not comfortable hanging out and did not like how some things were handled or said, especially since Bella tried shifting the blame to me when she texted me an apology beforehand. I also said that I needed space to reevaluate some things, but I told her to have fun and to stay safe. She replied, wishing me the best, but if I needed anything she was going to be waiting for me while respecting my need for space. I haven't reached out since, but I've been thinking about it. Weeks passed and I was still stuck up on the situation. Misael got tired and finally asked me why I couldn't let it go. After taking some time to reflect on the reasons and my choices, I put my big girl pants on and made the decision to call. I called, got connected to the manager and explained what happened. I offered to email the screenshots and because of the small size of the clinic, they had to create a completely new email so I could send everything. The next day, I received an email explaining that the clinic would be starting their investigation days earlier than they initially said. Days passed, and I received a conclusion email giving me their thanks for having the courage to report and what they did. They put Alice on leave, and reviewed the logs for several days. They brought her in for an HR meeting and decided on training Alice with some HIPAA training and are putting in measures so that this will never happen again. I'm sure this is not the update many expected or hoped for. I did what many recommended but the decision was ultimately up to the clinic. I hope this was a wake-up call for Alice. I haven't heard anything from Alice, Bella and Cassie since. My thoughts are that Alice made a stupid and careless mistake that nearly costed her job and ended our friendship. She's always had the habit of making careless mistakes without thinking or caring about the consequences until they came. As for her boyfriend, I don't know him that well but I've seen red flags he's presented in person and from what Alice has told me. For why I didn't tell her, she's the type to not listen/make excuses about her relationship. Besides, I wouldn't be the first friend to drop her because of her behavior once she started dating her boyfriend. I also want to briefly say that when writing my original post, it was 4 a.m. and I was shaking with anxiety at the realization that I just lost my closest friends of a decade. I regret how messy it sounded with more gossip and ranting than actual facts of what happened and I apologize for that. I hope that this update shows that I actually took time to process things and approach it with more maturity than my first one. Thank you everyone who responded to my original post with advice, support and even criticism. I think the blunt comments calling me a doormat were the most helpful in helping me reflect about everything. I know it took me some time, but in the end, I called and got some closure. I think this whole situation pushed me to improve myself for the better, not just as a person but to be a better friend to the future friends I'll meet. Thanks for reading, and at this moment, it will probably be my only update unless something significant happens. Edit, for those wondering, I deleted my first post. It had more detail and unnecessary venting that I was not comfortable leaving up, but this update has the important facts of the story up in the recap. Thanks for understanding. Comments. Commenter 1. That's fair to do retraining and have the write-up in her folder. It's not something people in healthcare are supposed to do. I am sorry you lost friends out of the situation though. Reply, thank you. But this situation taught me a lot and I hope I find better friends one day. Commenter 2. And please stop saying they had good intentions. They clearly didn't. Commenter 3. Good intentions would have been asking OP first if she would be okay with them doing some digging to try and help. Commenter 4. Longtime healthcare manager here. It wasn't a mistake. She willfully accessed your information. You absolutely did the correct thing reporting her. She is lucky she still has a job. We always fired people who did these things at my health system. Retraining would only be offered if it was an actual accident. She got off easy. Reply, she did. I think the clinic didn't want to risk anything by firing her since it's so small. But I can't say for certain. Commenter 5. You did right by reporting the HIPAA violation. You were also right in realizing your friends were really no longer real friends anymore. You're at an age where big life changes happen and old friends often go by the wayside as we come to find others that are more closely aligned with where we see ourselves in the big scheme of things. You'll be fine. Keep the good memories and just let those women go their own ways. Reply, thank you for this. It was hard since I knew them for so long, but I saw the signs but didn't want to admit it to myself that we were all growing apart. Stories number 13. Aita for asking the trip organizer for a refund after she replaced me with someone else. I was supposed to go on a group trip with 8 people in July. The cost was split into 2 payments, one due in April and one in June. I sent the first payment of $700 in April. In May, 2 months before the trip, I had to back out for personal reasons. Another person also dropped out around the same time, also after paying the same first installment. This left the group with 6 people. I told the organizer right away and asked if I could get at least part of my payment refunded. She said no because the remaining group would have to split the cost of my second installment, and it wasn't her responsibility to find someone else to take my place. I accepted this, even though $700 is a lot of money to me. However, I just learned that she did end up finding 2 replacement people, so the group was back to 8. As I see it, that means either those new people went for cheaper because of my $700, or the organizer charged them the full amount and kept the difference. With this in mind, I feel like I should get at least some of my money back, since the extra cost the group had to cover because of me wasn't a problem in the end. Aita for asking the organizer to return at least part of my $700. Comments. Commenter 1. Your NTA. There are alternative possibilities in which you might not be entitled to your money back, but given that the organizer clearly said no because the remaining group would have to split the cost of my second installment, then you clearly are. Her reason for not giving it back no longer applies, so she should give it back. Reply, that's how I see it, but they don't see it the same way. She said we all made a commitment and agreed to cover the cost up front. Commenter 2. What if they were only able to find 2 people to go because they couldn't afford the full cost but could afford to pay what you didn't? Reply, then they should share that. If I were OP, I'd like either a refund or explicit confirmation that I'm subsidizing someone else. Commenter 3. Nah. I'm assuming this organizer is a friend, and not a travel agent. But this person had to reserve a VRBO or whatever, and I'm sure the rental required the prepayments. There is no reason for the organizer, or the other attendees, to have to cover the extra costs when you backed out. The whole point of requiring a deposit is so the business can stem its losses in the case of cancellations. When you and the other person dropped out, the cost of the trip for the remaining 6 went from $1,400 up to $1,633 each, even keeping your deposit money. If you had found your own replacement, then you could negotiate with that person to possibly reimburse you for at least part of your deposit. You didn't do that. You apparently expected the organizer to do a bunch of extra work to make up for you changing your plans. In order to keep the cost down to the original $1,400 per person, the organizer had to find a way to cover the missing $1,400 due to the 2 cancellations. If she found 2 people to go and charged them only $700, that would be completely appropriate. She is offering them a discount to go on a last-minute trip they didn't plan on. If she charged them, say, $1,100, then the original 8 people should all get $50 back. Stories number 14. I denied my in-laws' only request for the wedding and now it's ruining our relationship with them. I need some advice on this situation from an unbiased source. Me 23 female and my fiancé 27 male are getting married in December. We got engaged in April and I pretty much did all the planning myself with the help of my mom in the first few weeks. From the very beginning my fiancé and I had a plan laid out for the bridal party. That was one of the first things decided since before I had the ring on my finger. Including flower girls and ring bearers. We decided that the flower girl would be my sister who's also my matron of honor's baby who will be pushed in a stroller down the aisle by my 10F cousin who would be considered a junior bridesmaid. For the ring bearers my fiancé really wanted to include his best friend's son. For context his friend has not had custody of his child for most of his life long story and it could be a little difficult to arrange his attendance. He will be around a year and a half at the time of the wedding. As a result we decided that we would also have my 2 cousins 5 male and 7 male, the brothers of the junior bridesmaid be ring bearers as well. This way it's no pressure on the friend and everything will go smoothly whether his child can come or not. The older boys will help the younger boy walk down the aisle holding his hands. We decided on these specific children because they are closely related / close to us and are the right age. Shortly after the engagement, I asked my sister and my cousin the moms of the children if their kids could be in the wedding and gave details of what they should wear etc. The kids and parents both were so excited. This was great and everything was going according to plan until a few weeks ago when my mother-in-law asked us if we would consider adding another flower girl. For context, my fiancé's brother / best man 24 male lives across the country from us and has recently told us around 4 months ago that he has a new girlfriend 21 female. This girlfriend has a child from a previous relationship female 10 months. They have now known each other about 7 or 8 months. He is very serious about her and we are very happy for them. He has taken a sort of father role in her daughter's life which is adorable. He is expressing interest in marrying her in the future but they are taking it slow. My fiancé and I have never met this girlfriend or her child, but we are thrilled for his brother so we of course invited them both to the wedding. Now this is where things get a little messy. I have always gotten along great with my fiancé's family. They have always been so sweet, kind, accepting, and well-meaning. They welcome newcomers with open arms including me and have really become my family. I especially had a great relationship with my mother-in-law. She is the sweetest lady and would do anything for me and any one of her children. She lives very close to us and my family lives far. She was always the first to say that it's our wedding, meaning mine and my fiancé, to encourage me to make my own decisions in wedding planning and not let my mother sway them. She has become like a mother to me in so many ways. With that being said they are also very loving and accepting of my fiancé's brother's girlfriend and her baby from afar. Which is great. I'm so glad that they are so supportive. They even started calling her baby their first grandchild and flew across the country to meet them. With this context in mind, a couple weeks ago when my mother-in-law and I were hanging out just the 2 of us, she asked me if I would consider adding the girlfriend's baby as a flower girl. She said fiancé's brother keeps bringing it up and that it would be really cute. I politely told her that we already had a flower girl, my niece, and a junior bridesmaid assigned to push her in a carriage. She responded by saying essentially what's one more. She will probably be able to walk by herself down the aisle by then. 14 to 15 months. I kind of just said I would think about it with my fiancé and changed the subject. Later on I told my fiancé about it and we both agreed that it wasn't a good idea because 1. We already had the role filled and it would be sort of awkward to have a baby randomly walking next to the stroller with the other baby. 2. If she needed help walking it wouldn't be easy for the 10-year-old to juggle 2 kids down an aisle. 3. We have never met her and she might not be comfortable walking down the aisle of a wedding where she knows nobody. And 4. They aren't married and worst case scenario if they break up she's in all the pictures. I know that sounds harsh but I come from a family where traditionally if you're not engaged you don't get a +1 no matter who you are. I am not following this rule and everyone's significant other is invited but that doesn't mean they get to be in the wedding. My fiancé and I were on the same page about this. We agreed to keep the bridal party the way it was. He talked to his brother and essentially told him it was a no and everything was fine and everyone was on the same page until the other night. We were at mother-in-law's house again but this time my fiancé was there too. Once again Mil brings up the flower girl thing and my fiancé tells her that we already have the position filled and that's that. But then my Mil tells my fiancé how much it must mean to his brother since he keeps bringing it up. This brings out the empath in my fiancé and he starts to have an open mind about it. Meanwhile I'm still against it. And I start to say so with some of the reasons I listed above. My MIL points out that all of the children in the wedding are from my side except one and that their side doesn't have any representation. Meanwhile this is because there are no children on his side. She also points out that there are 3 little boys in the wedding and why can't there be 3 little girls. At this point she's convinced my fiancé and I'm an island. I'm still defending my position alone. She wasn't being rude or anything but every reason I have she seemed to have a rebuttal. She's saying things like they will get married one day anyways and she's already part of the family. Then I start saying we will think about it. And she is like so that sounds like a no and I was like we will consider it. Then it was awkward and I was about to like cry so I changed the subject. The whole time I felt like I looked like a major asshole. It was really bad. My fiancé since apologized to me for being open to the idea in front of his mother when we had decided against it. From what he believed about his mother he figured that she would just have an open conversation with us and not try to push her way. I figured it would not go that way. Later that night he called his brother and told him it was for sure no and we had already asked other people. His brother was sad but understood. I felt really bad and guilty for making my fiancé feel bad. In hindsight I really should not have because of what followed afterwards. This is where my previous post left off. A lot has happened in the last few days. I was worried immediately after that conversation that his mother would tell his brother that my fiancé was for it and I was against it while we were at her place. My fiancé said that he knows his mother well and that she wouldn't do that. That next morning his brother calls him wanting to talk. The first words out of his mouth are after our conversation last night I talked to mom and she said that you were wanting to have her as the flower girl and your fiancé me wasn't just as I thought would happen. And he goes on to say as your brother I want to make sure that you get what you want since it's your wedding. I was pissed. My fiancé told him that we would still talk about it but that we had already agreed not to have her as the flower girl and that he should not have seemed so open to it last night. That whole day we discussed it. I felt like an asshole and was tempted to cave to keep the peace, but the only reason my fiancé was wanting it was because it meant a lot to his brother. But the conclusion we came to was that it's not his brother's wedding. So we called him up a few hours later and told him no for the 3rd time. He was upset but at least it was over, or so we thought. He texted him the next morning again expressing how hurt he was by it but at that point we were like the decision is made. It's our wedding, please get over it. And then my fiancé's brother enlisted their mother. She calls my fiancé and basically attacks him for almost an hour on the phone. My fiancé did a great job of sticking up for us and sticking to his guns. His mom went as far as to say that my relationships with his whole family will forever be affected by this decision. That one hurt. And that my fiancé's relationship with his brother will forever be altered. At this point this is all going way too far. We ended up talking to my fiancé's sister and found out that his brother no longer wants to be best man anymore and that neither of them want to speak to us for a while. They said that this won't be resolved until we give in. I'm at a loss for words. This doesn't even feel like a real situation, to be honest. I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. We are definitely not going to give in. At this point all that it would tell them is that if they push hard enough they can manipulate us. It just really hurts because we had such a great relationship before this. TLDR, my fiancé's brother and mother are trying to manipulate and force us to have brother-in-law's girlfriend's daughter as a flower girl. Brother-in-law is not the biological father of this child and we have never met this child or her mother. They have also only been together for 8 months. We have said no repeatedly and they are personally offended and now won't talk to us. Update 1. Thank you for those of you that gave great advice and were trying to help the situation. Your insight really opened our eyes, mine and my fiancé. A lot of you hit the nail on the head. Brother-in-law is the golden child and has always been favored greatly over my fiancé by their mother. Bil is the youngest and his mother has been coddling him his whole life. My fiancé is the oldest and tends to be the peacemaker sacrificed. A lot of you also called out the triangulation manipulation. I told my fiancé this and he said that his younger brother often would rope his mom into their arguments, get her to take his side, and get my fiancé in trouble no matter how ridiculous or wrong brother was being. He mastered the art of triangulation manipulation from a young age. My fiancé would just take it and apologize to keep the peace. For those of you who said it's ridiculous to have a child we have never met and are not related to and have not even met her mother as such an important part of our wedding party, thank you. I was feeling like the crazy one for thinking this. Also info, I was being gracious when I said they have been together 8 months. They have known each other 8 months and only been dating officially for 4 months. The wedding is further away than the length of their whole relationship. It's bizarre that they are pushing so hard for this. For those who said we should have granted their request and just kept the peace, my fiancé has been doing this his entire life with this family. That is probably why they resorted to their usual manipulation tactics. He never actually wanted to have this baby in our wedding. He in fact thought it was pretty ridiculous of them to ask. He was just ready to cave because he always does to keep the family peace. At the expense of himself and his needs/wants every time. Except the difference is, this time the wedding is about him. It's his day and not his brother. Well, both of us. And that's the other thing. He has me this time to stand up for him, and what he actually wanted I also wanted it too, which helps lol. On to the update. A lot has happened. Today my fiancé went to see his dad, and then his mom. They are separated. His dad is neutral but has been sticking up for me in this whole thing. I have a great relationship with him. He filled us in on a lot. Here is essentially what has been happening. Turns out brother-in-law's girlfriend has more to do with this than we thought, as some of you suggested in the comments. She is the one who has been encouraging him to push for this because it means a lot to him. And been super offended and making a big deal about us saying no. Personally, if it was me, I would never ask someone if my kid could be in their wedding. Even if it's family. But forcing it on strangers is wild. My fiancé found out from talking to his dad that my mother-in-law and brother-in-law are spreading a whole bunch of lies. Here is what has all unfolded. Mother-in-law is telling people I'm racist and that's why I didn't want the baby in it. Apparently the baby and mother are Filipino, which I honestly didn't even know because once again I've never met them. They live across the country. I don't even know their last name, but still I don't care what race they are in the slightest. The girlfriend now believes this and doesn't even want to come to the wedding anymore. That's her choice. Also, the wedding party is diverse ethnicities, so how is it that I'm racist? LOL. Brother-in-law is telling people that we are judging the girlfriend and don't want her child in the wedding because she was born out of wedlock, which is ridiculous. 2 of the children who are already in the wedding were born out of wedlock. 1 from each side. They have been talking behind our backs, gossiping, making up lies about me, and assuming things about me that are not true. Brother-in-law is twisting and changing my fiancé's words into complete lies that make him seem like the victim. He is feeding these lies of things my fiancé did not say to not only his mother, but his sister and his dad. My sister-in-law and father-in-law are both neutral and won't take sides but think that this whole thing is insane and want it to end. We do too. They both see that they are doing this whole thing and hate me for no reason. So today my fiancé went to see his mother to essentially call her out for her behavior. She was absolutely hysterical and was not ready to listen to reason or logic. She deflected and denied. And lied about things we knew were in fact true. She refused to take accountability or any sort of blame for the situation getting out of hand. She just deferred back to blaming me for everything and making me the villain and herself and her precious baby son Bil the victim. Meanwhile, the last time I spoke to either of them was when we had that conversation with mother-in-law at her house where my fiancé slipped and this whole thing started. My fiancé has been handling this whole thing and even trying to shield me from the blame and take it all for himself. It's not working. Mother-in-law and brother-in-law have made this whole thing up in their heads and driven themselves and everyone else crazy over it. Meanwhile, all I've done is express my concerns for having a child in the wedding that we don't know in that initial conversation when they aren't engaged or married. And the fact that we already filled the roles. She denies favoring brother-in-law and claims that she is hurt by the accusation and then in the same breath favors him and defends him. I feel the worst for my fiancé because he doesn't even want anything to do with them anymore and does not feel the need to keep up with these relationships. He said that his mother expected him to fall on his face today and apologize for everything because that is what he was forced to do growing up and that's what they are used to. But now that I'm an extension of him, he is not letting me/us get treated this way. He is angry that they are selfishly trying to use our day to make some grand gesture to his brother's girlfriend he's been dating for 4 months and that they refuse to respect our wishes. He is shocked and disappointed that they are lying about us and creating drama around our wedding. He is saying goodbye to this toxic cycle and going to go no contact until they come to their senses and fix this mess. For those of you who asked, we are in premarital counseling with our pastor who is also our officiant. He was bewildered that they even requested this in the first place and shocked and dismayed that they have turned it into such an ordeal. Anyways, this wasn't the update we hoped for, but it's the one we have. Hopefully one day things will turn around. We are hoping mother-in-law at least comes to her senses considering we are the only family that lives near her. Maybe she will learn to support the son and daughter-in-law who will one day birth the grandkid she actually has a shot of seeing regularly, rather than blatantly favoring the son and girlfriend who live across the country. But for the time being this is it. Update 2. Hi guys, I have a small update. I decided to just be the bigger person and try to dissolve some of the tension myself. I was tired of my fiancé talking to his brother and his brother twisting it, so I tracked down Bil's girlfriend on Instagram and sent her a DM like some of our comments suggested, thank you. I cut out the middlemen literally LOL. I sent her a very nice message telling her how excited we are to meet her and her daughter, explained from my point of view in detail everything that went into the original decision of the flower girl and cleared up all of the miscommunications, her boyfriend's assumptions and twists of my fiancé's words, but I didn't say that LOL. Surprisingly she was very kind and appreciative. Her message back was very mature, gracious, and understanding. Me and her are 100% good and she and her baby are very excited to come to the wedding. Honestly, it could not have gone better. Now for what everyone is wondering about, we are still low contact with mother-in-law and brother-in-law. My fiancé is not ready to talk to either of them. Brother-in-law has not tried to reach out. That night, after mother-in-law had that horrible conversation with my fiancé, she found out that sister-in-law was coming to my first dress fitting the next day and she wasn't invited. She asked sister-in-law to call us and ask if she could come to it. We told her there would be others. I wouldn't really be able to enjoy the day with all the tension. The next day I had a great time with sister-in-law and did not mention the topic situation even once because I knew she was forced to hear about it from both her mom and my fiancé. Mother-in-law reached out to both me and my fiancé and asked to talk to both of us in person and proposed a few dates. My fiancé told her that he was not ready to talk to her yet after how their conversation went the day before. The timing of it tells me that she definitely sees that if she doesn't make this right, she will be left out of all the wedding stuff. Not only that, but all of the life stuff that we're doing. For example, we just put an offer in on a house. I am holding out hope that our relationship with her will be mended one day soon. I am hoping that his brother also comes around now that we have explained everything to his girlfriend. My fiancé has expressed that they need to apologize before we can move forward. Not too much of an update, but just wanted to keep you guys in the loop. Thanks for reading and following along with this madness. Update 3. Brother-in-law's girlfriend broke up with him. I don't know all the details, but BL told my sister-in-law, who told my fiancé this morning. Apparently she said she couldn't deal with the toxicity and drama of his family. Trust me girl, I get that, but my fiancé is super upset because he thinks that she means US. As in me and him. I said after our messages the other day she probably means mother-in-law, but my fiancé is convinced that from her perspective, he and I are the toxic ones creating drama. That's debatable I guess. Either way he feels super guilty and now just wants to fix everything with his family. I'm convinced that if anything my text to her showed her how crazy he made this whole situation and it probably illuminated some of his issues. I think he probably tries to manipulate her too. But it's hard to say, I don't know her or their relationship. At this point I'm speculating, but I'm sure that there were other issues with them. Nobody breaks up with someone they truly are in love with just because of their family. There has to be something else. Let me update you on mother-in-law. Mother-in-law called my fiancé the other day before the breakup and stuff, which we all just found out about this morning, and told him maybe it's good this all happened, now you're going to therapy to work on yourself, and my mother is being super supportive. We did not appreciate that. Felt super condescending tbh. But anyways, he called her this morning after all of this and she said she was trying to see us so that she could apologize to us. I will definitely hear her out and accept her apology. I will move on from this, but always watch my back. Things can be cordial again though. Stories number 15. Aita for refusing to forgive my dad or speak to him after he left my mom for a 21-year-old. I am 17, live with my mom 46, my brother 13 and my dad 50. My relationship with my dad has always been rocky, and he's let me down many times before, but this time feels like the final straw. Last Wednesday, he told us completely out of the blue that he asked my mom for a divorce because he wasn't in love with her anymore and had feelings for his 21-year-old coworker, Rebecca. For context, she just turned 21. We would have literally been in high school at the same time. I was furious. My parents have been together since 2003. Their relationship has had issues, but this was still shocking. What made it even weirder was how impulsive and unlike him it was. He left the house the next day after non-stop fighting, packed his stuff into our car, and went to sleep in a parking lot. The car and the house are both in my mom's name, and he only had $18 in his personal bank account when he left. Then, the next morning, he suddenly came back saying he felt like he was in a trance, that the fog had lifted, and that he made a huge mistake. He begged for another chance. My mom thinks he was genuinely delusional and believes it may be tied to his health. He had a severe case of West Nile virus in 2021 that caused lasting neurological issues and personality changes. She's choosing to forgive him and is letting him stay. I don't buy it. I think he only came crawling back because the fantasy he built in his head wasn't actually going to work. My mom is the sole breadwinner and has supported us our entire lives. My dad has a part-time job as a pizza delivery man, however his money is only used for his stuff, cigs, gas, etc. I think he realized he blew up his entire life for a girl half his age who didn't actually want him, and now he's trying to do damage control. He's been trying to talk to me, apologizing, saying he loves me and wants to fix things. I'm ignoring him completely. I feel guilty sometimes, because I can tell it hurts him, but I honestly don't think I can forgive him. This situation is just the most recent in a long pattern of disappointment and selfishness. My mom respects my decision, but she clearly hopes I'll try to work on my relationship with him again. I'm not interested. I still live at home for another year before college, so I'm just planning on avoiding him completely. Aita for refusing to give my dad another chance, even though he might have been mentally unwell when he made that decision. Update, Aita for refusing to forgive my dad or speak to him after he left my mom for a 21-year-old. My dad 50 randomly told my mom 46 he wanted a divorce because he was in love with his 21-year-old coworker. He left, then came back the next day saying he was in some kind of fog and wanted forgiveness. My mom decided to take him back, but I said I wasn't interested in repairing things with him. Fast forward to my birthday trip, about 2 weeks after the initial situation. We were going to the beach with me, my mom, my brother, and my best friend. My dad was staying home because we have a lot of animals and it was easier for him to just stay than to pay for them to all be watched. I was actually really looking forward to it because it felt like the first time I'd get a break from all the chaos with my dad. Then my dad decides to drive 7 hours to our Airbnb as some kind of grand gesture. My mom claims she didn't know he was coming until he called her while already 3 hours into the drive, but I don't really buy that. The plan was apparently for him to stay the night, and she had already paid for an extra spot so he could come with us on the boat tour and dinner. So it's hard for me to believe she had no idea. Here's the kicker, she wasn't even planning on telling me. She literally wanted it to be a surprise that he just walked in the door. The only reason I knew was because she brought it up to my best friend, I'll call her Jane, that morning. Mom says she asked Jane if she should tell me and Jane told her no, but Jane straight up told me all she was asked was if she thought I'd be upset, and she said yes. Later on while we were out, Jane told me what was happening anyway and that my dad was about an hour away. My mom got pissed at her for telling me. When I found out, I was devastated. I had explicitly said I was excited to get away from him on this trip, and instead it turned into this whole thing. My mom was mad at me for being upset and kept saying things like, "It's still your dad, you'll have to get over it eventually, and he's trying to show he cares." She even tried to spin it like maybe he was doing it for her, to prove he cared about fixing their marriage by showing up for us. She kept saying, "Well, I feel happy he did it," and I just felt like screaming because this was my birthday, not hers. My mom said he was coming to give me a birthday card, so I was expecting a long thoughtful written card. He drove 7 hours to hand me a card with 2 sentences in it. "I'm sorry for what I did. I will make it up to you." That's it. After all that, he stayed for maybe a few minutes, then turned right around and drove all the way back home because I was so upset. There also wasn't even enough room in the Airbnb for him to stay, so they didn't think that through. That was mid-July. I've gone back to talking to my dad normally, but only to keep the peace. I don't want to, but if I start ignoring him again it'll set my mom off, and I don't have the energy for more fights. So I'm just stuck pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's exhausting to constantly have my boundaries pushed aside, and I genuinely don't get how they think that's supposed to make me forgive him. My parents' relationship seems to be better. I am only viewing it from the outside, but they've been going on dates, been more touchy-feely, spending more time together, etc. If they really did fix things permanently, I am happy for them. My mom deserves to be happy. However, I feel that him changing his behavior doesn't erase the things he did in the past. I don't feel like I want a close relationship with him ever, even if he's changed. Am I in the wrong to not move on and forgive, even if he has truly changed? Comments. Commenter 1. He came back because the 21-year-old said no. That's it. Maybe your mum needs that explaining to her. Commenter 2. The mother knows already, it's why she's pushing OP to just get over it because she wants to sweep everything under the rug rather than deal with her own feelings. Commenter 3. Or because he realized he can't afford to be a sugar daddy when he relies on his wife to be the breadwinner. OP is right to be disappointed. His father deems to be a total deadbeat. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. Commenter 4. NTA, you can continue to be upset and not talk to your dad without pressure from your mother. It's not fair she fights you about it. Your mother is a doormat accepting him back, but that's her issue. You being mad at him just embarrasses her for her decision to take what he's done and forgive easily. That's why she just wants you to forgive too. I'd go no contact with your dad given he's let you down a lot over the years. Talking normally gives him the impression everything is fine. He should just leave you be, but he'll keep pushing you. Keep that in mind. Have you made plans to move away for college? That'll give you the break you need, but you'll have to think about how not talking to him will affect the relationship with your mother and brother. Not sure what your brother's relationship is like with your dad. Stories number 16. Aita for calling the police on my guardian and her partner after refusal to return my school Chromebook. I 15F live with my dad now, but I used to live with legal guardian Sam 26, not a parent who's about to officially lose guardianship. I moved out a while ago, and all my things were returned in trash bags except for my school-issued Chromebook, which I really need for school. First day is tomorrow. Back when I lived with her, Sam sent me a file on it, an editor's copy of her book, and now she and her partner are refusing to return the Chromebook unless it's deleted. 5 days ago, I showed up and it was dead. Sam told me she'd charge it and delete the stuff so I'd have it before tomorrow. By today, I never got any update or the Chromebook, so I asked for it back when we moved little sister's stuff from there. Sam's partner 23, in a very hostile tone, told me I wouldn't have it for the first day of school, and said this was a boundary they were setting. I didn't feel comfortable or safe and didn't want to argue, so I called the non-emergency police line to help resolve it calmly and legally after another warning that I needed it by tomorrow that was ignored. Keep in mind, Sam wasn't there for whatever reason. After I'd called the police, she tried to call me and pressure me into giving her partner the password and ID. I said I'd delete in front of them, wait for the police, or for her to get home, but that partner couldn't have unprecedented control over my Chromebook. The officer was calm and kind, and I left with the Chromebook without issue after Sam deleted the document in front of me and the officer. I didn't even care about the book or give them any reason to think I did. During the ordeal they tried saying I was wrong for not calling Sam directly. She later claimed she was in the middle of a surgery when it happened that I forced her out of, so I'm not sure what good calling her would have done anyway. Now they're making vague posts online about karma and consequences, trying to make me look like the bad guy for handling it the way I did. I just didn't want her hostile partner to have control over a device that isn't theirs. So, AITA for getting the police involved to make sure I got my school Chromebook back. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. It's school property. You need it for school. They had zero right to hold it hostage over some doc. You handled it maturely, more than they did. Commenter 2. They also had no right to store the book on it. You may want to have your school's IT look it over to make sure they didn't put any kind of controls on it. Commenter 3. It's not even yours, it belongs to the school district and you're just using it. NTA. Stories number 17. AITA for accidentally sleeping on the couch with my husband. My 24F husband 24M and I are visiting my family. My husband, kids, and I were getting ready to go to our room for bed when my parents started acting really awkward. Like something was off. I asked them what was wrong and my mom quietly told me that my husband should sleep on the couch in the living room. I was a bit shocked because, why? Apparently my dad doesn't feel comfortable. I called her and my dad weird and told my husband to ignore them. We finally put our kids to sleep and are getting ready to sleep when my mom barges into the room while we're changing and says that she doesn't want us in the same room alone in her house. My husband is freaking terrified at this point because he was in the middle of changing, so he leaves for the couch and my mom says she's sorry but she's not in the mood to deal with my dad's complaining all night. I pointed out that my younger sister 21F and her husband have slept in the same room at their house multiple times and she's never said anything, and she goes, well, your husband is white so your dad feels weird. I was over it so I said fine. I got up at like 4 a.m. to drink some water and I saw my husband wide awake just lying on the couch. He said the couch is uncomfortable as fuck, which yes it is, so I sat down next to him and we both accidentally fell asleep. I woke up later to my mom freaking out. She was whisper yelling so she doesn't wake up my dad and asked if we're that codependent on each other that we can't spend one night alone. I tried explaining that it was a mistake but she kept calling me disrespectful and said that I was selfish etc. I was upset but my son called for me so we ended our conversation. Now I'm wondering if I really am the asshole in this situation. My mom says I am because I was being selfish, disrespectful and completely disregarded how difficult her life would have become if my dad found us. My whole thing is that it was an accident. I'm 24, my dad is being weird and my sister's husband doesn't have to do this so why does mine? Aita. Edit. My family and I are South Asian. Edit. Yes, I know a lot of this has to do with my husband being white and them being racist/prejudiced. I called my parents weird/strange/awkward because of what they were doing, glaring at each other, swearing at each other under their breaths, randomly going quiet out of nowhere etc. They do this pretty often and have been doing it for as long as I can remember. So much that my sister and I call it the weird mood. Like keep an eye out for mom and dad, they're in their weird mood. Sorry for so many edits but this should be the last one. I'm getting a lot of people asking the same thing so I'm just going to copy one of my replies. My kids were not in danger. We live over 8 hours away, it was snowing heavily and the roads would have been icy and pitch black, it was after 11 p.m., my sons are 2 and 3 and the nearest hotel is pretty far away. Not to mention my husband and I had been driving for literal hours and were completely exhausted. Trust me, we definitely thought about it and both my husband and I decided to stay the night. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. WTF. What kind of shenanigans is this? I don't see why your dad has any issues with you sleeping in the same room with your husband. You guys have kids so clearly sex has happened. And why is it any different that he's white? Why are your parents racist? Do they treat your kids differently because they're half white? If they do, you need to step up and protect your children from your bigoted parents. And step up for your husband, too. Reply, right? I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thinks my parents are being very strange. Like what they're so afraid of considering we have literal kids. They treat my children well. If they even dared to say something to them I would definitely not be in good terms with them. I'm the first person in my family to marry a white person so I understood the initial shock when I told them but that was years ago and I thought that they had gotten used to it. Because of you know what, this is my husband's first time staying over so I didn't know this was going to be an issue at all. I'm still pissed but my husband keeps telling me it's fine and that we're leaving anyways. However now that I've gotten a few comments I'm thinking of talking to my parents about how weird they were being. Commenter 2, NTA. South Asian parents are weird and have a weird perception of white people. I'm white and my husband is South Asian and before his family even knew about me, he told me their perception of white women were that they will marry a South Asian man only to divorce him and steal all his money. I know in South Asian culture you're not supposed to disrespect your elders, especially your parents, but this is completely unacceptable of them to pull this kind of crap on you. Did they want you to have an arranged marriage and you were like nah, I'ma marry a white man? I saw that you're Muslim also so I'm surprised they even let you marry your husband without him converting. My in-laws wouldn't allow us to get married unless I converted, but my husband is a non-practicing Muslim and I was agnostic prior to us being married so I'm more of a fovert. Reply. My dad never mentioned marriage but my mom used to say things like she didn't care who but I was only allowed to marry a Muslim man. And yeah, that is the key word here. I told my mom that I'm going to get married regardless of whether they approve or not and we got pretty personal and she eventually accepted. How she convinced my dad to not make a fuss during my wedding etc. but she did somehow. I do believe in God I guess and the prophets and all that it's been drilled into me since I was a kid so it's hard to not believe if that makes sense but I'm technically non-practicing as well so hey. Update. A lot of you were understandably harsh which I appreciate and I admit that I should have been more firm and shouldn't have let my husband sleep on the couch at all. Yes, I didn't handle the situation too well but I honestly did the best that I could given the fact that my mom was yelling and my children were starting to get irritated and were very close to waking up and crying. We needed my mom to leave so that our kids wouldn't wake up/cry and so my husband decided to just go to the couch. I also am quite aware that my parents were being prejudiced/racist towards my husband. I never excused it. The only reason I was calling my parents weird is because they were acting like that. As in, they were fighting each other quietly in their heads. This is what I meant every time I said they were acting weird. Now for the update. I told my husband that I was really sorry for how my parents treated him. He told me he genuinely didn't care and that he's sorry that he's causing so much trouble. Yeah, no. I made sure he realized that this situation is not his fault. We had a heart-to-heart talk and eventually decided that we'd talk to my parents together when my dad finally came home. So basically I told them that they disrespected my husband last night. That we both are married and have kids and are planning on having more kids. We were going to sleep in the same room in the same bed just like other married couples, and if they had a problem with that then they needed to figure it out, because while I made a mistake by not standing my ground the first time, I wasn't going to let it happen again. I told them I was 100% willing to go no contact again and that I wasn't afraid to do so. My dad immediately started yelling at my husband. He called my husband weak, pathetic, and said he wasn't good enough for me. He also said that my husband ruined me and my future and that I'm now dirty and sinful and all that. I shut that down right away. I told my dad that he was weak and pathetic, not my husband who has been there for me and done things for me that my dad would never in his life do for anyone. That's when my mom finally decides to jump in. She told my dad to stop acting creepily obsessive over me, that I'm not his doll and I'm not his property. She mentioned a few disturbing things I'd rather not repeat as I'm still having trouble processing them myself, but she also called him out for being jealous of my husband. My dad left the house and according to my mom he probably went to a hotel or something. My mom apologized for everything. She even apologized to my husband for when she barged into the room while we were changing. She said that my dad and her had been fighting all day and that she wrongly took her anger out on us. She said she understood if we didn't want to stay any longer and for the sake of everything, we decided to leave. And that's that. I don't really have much to say because my mind's been kind of empty. I'm just numb and sad but also relieved. My dad and I have had a shitty relationship since I was 18, but knowing what he really thinks of me and my family hurts a lot. And it isn't even because of our culture or religion. It's just him being a shitty person, and because of this I'm going to go NC with my parents. Again. I didn't expect so much attention and I'm admittedly really overwhelmed. I don't use Reddit at all and wrote my post out of frustration. Thank you all for your comments. I know that there are things that a lot of you just won't get due to cultural differences, and I didn't include a few details for privacy reasons, but those things don't really matter. We're finally home after the most exhausting days of our lives, and again, I feel so incredibly numb. My husband keeps checking up on me in fear that I'm going to have a breakdown, but I just don't feel anything. My MIL and FIL are coming over to babysit the kids while we go out for dinner since restrictions have been lifted, so I guess I'm happy for that. I don't know, but this state of numbness happens to me sometimes and it usually passes in a day or two, so I'll be fine. This is getting very long, so I'm going to end it here. I'm sorry if I skipped a few things, but I hope you guys understand that I'm not in the right state of mind. Stay safe everyone. Edit. I'm still in contact with my mom. I can't force her to leave my dad, but I am helping her and will be there for her if she ever needs me. I appreciate everyone's comments, advice and kind words. Thank you so very much. Unfortunately I'm going to be logging out as I'm getting a few messages that are actually really hurtful. Turns out my husband was right, LMAO. I suppose I am about to have breakdown as the things that my mom told me are beginning to freak me out and overwhelm me. Like a few of you said, perhaps it's time for therapy. Thanks once again for all the advice and kindness. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Good for you for standing up for your husband, especially since he was ready to let it go, which would have made it tempting and easy to not do the right thing. I'm so sorry for both of you that you had to go through that. Your father has some serious issues. It scares me a little that you can say that your mom thinks he's jealous of your husband in was that reads very very creepy from the context. It makes me wonder what the worst things are that you can't say. Please take compassion and support from this internet stranger. Your numbness sounds like shock/trauma response. If you're not already in therapy, I suggest you start. It sounds like you already had a lot to process and just got a whole bunch more dropped in your lap. Best of luck, OP. Commenter 2. Have to downvote since OP skipped a lot of things which were part of the story and called us ignorant and incapable of understanding her culture. What does she think? That everyone here is white or American? No Asians here? Or people with similar conservative, racist cultural background? Or that white or Americans cannot understand other cultures? Staying with her parents, OP has turned pretty discriminatory towards others. And what privacy? This is Reddit. Is her social security or passport tagged to her Reddit account or what? I think OP just doesn't like being honest or face the truth and likes wasting other people's time. When everyone spent time to give her wonderful advice the first time by telling her to stand up for her husband more, she doesn't like giving updates, and when she does it's half-baked truth. Reply. I didn't call anyone ignorant. I just said that if you aren't South Asian or Muslim a lot of things may not make sense, which is perfectly okay. I also said that it doesn't matter in the end either, as culture and religion doesn't excuse anything. By privacy I mean that I don't feel comfortable sharing everything in too much detail. I don't know why this is an issue. I know I didn't defend my husband properly over the couch situation. I'm well aware and I feel guilty over it, which I know is my fault. I tried making things right, and I know a lot of you think I don't deserve my husband, which yes, I honestly think no one deserves him. There is nobody as kind and wonderful as him. And what do you mean by half-truth? Did you want me to tell everyone that my dad thinks I'm a disgusting whore that's only successful because I sell my body to white men? That my own father objectifies me and has said horrific things about my body? That he has tried doing things to me and I never noticed? That my mom knew and never said anything because she was scared? I'm sorry that I didn't tell everyone the full truth, but I'm still trying to process this FFS. I'm trying so hard to not shut down because I have my kids and my husband and they shouldn't have to deal with this. I appreciated everyone's advice and so many of you were extremely kind and understanding. I even appreciate the harsh ones because, like I said, I needed to hear it. I read everyone's comments and DMs and really tried to take everything into consideration to be a better person, and I'm still trying to be better despite everything. I'm sorry if that isn't enough for you and everyone else that's sending me similar messages. Stories number 18. Aita for not canceling long-standing plans for a barbecue that I just found out about. My wife and I made plans back in January with a group of friends to go to a beer festival in the mountains. My father-in-law has a rental property in the mountains which we reserved for the weekend, and we all got tickets to the festival. It's 3 families and some other friends, so about 9 people total. The festival is Labor Day weekend, and my grandparents invited us and some other family to a barbecue that weekend, but we won't be able to attend because we're doing the beer festival. I texted my grandpa and let him know we wouldn't be able to make it because we already had plans that weekend, and he said he understood and that it was no problem. But then my mom texted me asking why we couldn't come. And I told her why. She told me she's very disappointed, and that I need to make this barbecue a priority and that I should cancel the plans to go to the beer festival. She then goes on to guilt-trip me, saying my grandparents are in their 80s and we won't have many more opportunities to get together. For context, we live in the same state as my grandparents and we see them 2 to 3 times a month minimum. She told me a beer festival is not a good reason to blow off my grandparents and that I need to reconsider my priorities. I told her I couldn't cancel, the house is booked and the tickets are paid for. And I told her that if it was just our family and no friends going that we'd forego the festival and come to the barbecue, but that I didn't think it was fair to our friends to cancel long-standing plans for a barbecue that we just found out about, not to mention telling them that they'd either have to eat the cost of the tickets, or find a different place to rent. I told my mom that if it was any other weekend, or even Monday of the long weekend instead of Saturday, that we'd be there and we aren't blowing them off. It's a scheduling conflict, but she disagrees and is still very pissed off at me. Am I the asshole? Comments. Commenter 1, NTA. Tell her she raised you right, to be a reliable and trustworthy guy, someone who doesn't cancel on people or ruin their plans. If she argues, she shoots herself in the foot. Commenter 2, NTA, please also remind your mother that you are an adult. Commenter 3, NTA. Tell your mom if your presence was so important they would have booked you earlier and checked which dates worked for you. Stories number 19. Aita for telling my SIL she's not the main character at my daughter's birthday. I 32F and recently threw a birthday party for my daughter, just a backyard thing with close family, food, and a few games. My sister-in-law 30F showed up wearing a white maxi dress, full glam, and immediately started doing a mini photo shoot by the cake table. Like, okay. Then she started telling people how she's basically a second mom to my daughter, even though she sees her maybe once every 2 months. She kept interrupting conversations to talk about her new side hustle, her spiritual awakening, and how she's manifesting a luxury condo. I kept it cool until she tried to give a speech before we cut the cake. I stepped in and said, "This isn't your event. Can you chill for 5 minutes and let my kid have her moment?" She got quiet, then left early. Now my MIL says I embarrassed her and should have let her speak because she just wanted to feel included. My husband is neutral but admitted I came off a little harsh. So. Aita for not letting my SIL hijack my daughter's birthday. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, and you honestly kept your cool longer than I would have managed. Commenter 2. So your MIL and husband are both fine with your daughter being upstaged? Got it. NTA. Sounds like we know who the golden child is. Commenter 3. NTA. Ask both your husband and MIL if it's okay for her to upstage your daughter so she can feel included. Your husband has to pick a side. Stories number 20. AITB for not punishing my daughter for hitting a disabled boy that touched her inappropriately. Hey everyone. First time actually posting. My family consists of me 32M, my husband 35M, and our adopted daughter Kayla 14F. Kayla has autism. She's partially nonverbal, and has extreme sensory issues. She goes a public school with a decent special education program. She's in a class separate from all the other students with multiple teachers. Kayla is really happy and gets along with most of the kids. The class is allowed to join one of the general population gym classes. I was really worried about this at first, but this class is actually really nice to the special ed kids. All the kids in special ed are really nice and sweet, except for this one boy. Josh 16M has Down syndrome. Josh's mom is the kind of mom that I can't stand. She doesn't enforce any rules on her son. She never corrects his behavior or tells him no. Josh isn't a mean or violent kid. The problem is that this boy has no concept of boundaries or consent. He's very physically affectionate. My daughter does not like being touched at all unless she specifically asks for it. He's always grabbing her, tickling, hugging, pinning her down to cuddle. She tells him no politely, but that just makes him upset and he tries harder to touch her. The teachers have to constantly stop him. Last Friday, I got a call that the principal wanted to have a meeting after school. Kayla was in trouble for hitting a boy in her class. Kayla was waiting in the office. The principal gave a whole speech about how violence is absolutely unacceptable, etc. I asked her what happened. They were in gym class for free day and Kayla was jogging laps around the gym. Josh was off to the side with a group of girls playing tickle tag. As Kayla was passing by, she felt hands on her butt. She spun around and slapped him across the face. Josh fell to the floor and started loudly crying. He wanted Kayla to join them playing, but instead of asking her, he just ran up behind her and tickled her butt. I felt so bad for my little girl. She was so upset. I assumed the punishment would be dropped, but the principal wanted a week of detention. I was floored. She thought she was being groped, it was self-defense. The principal said Josh wasn't sexually harassing her, he was just playing. Even if he was, violence of any kind is not tolerated. I asked if Josh would be punished for touching my daughter's butt, and he said no. He has Downs, he doesn't know any better. I unloaded on the principal. Are you going to let him graduate and send him out into the world as an adult thinking it's okay to sneak up behind girls and touch their butts? He needs to learn that behavior isn't okay. The principal kept to that same stupid excuse. I stormed out and took Kayla out for pizza. Josh's mom was blowing up my phone the whole time, but I ignored her. My husband agreed that Josh's behavior was inappropriate, and her reaction was reasonable, but that maybe Kayla should apologize to Josh for hitting him. Since he doesn't know why he got hit. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Absolutely NTB. The school administration seriously needs to check themselves and look at security footage or something if this has been a pattern of Josh. The double standards are crazy here, that the fact that he has Down syndrome excuses him but Kayla's autism and sensory issues mean nothing. Ridiculous. Reply. They think that because he didn't have any sexual intentions that it's all a misunderstanding and he should be let off the hook. Honestly, I can't stand people that don't hold disabled kids accountable when they act inappropriately. Kayla is a lot more mentally developed than the other kids, she's the only one that does work at her grade level and has the mental capacity of a teenager. So she's expected to be a lot more patient and understanding, even when the other kids make her uncomfortable. Commenter 2. Do they think that people with that condition are incapable of sexual feelings? Because once his hormones kick in and he actually starts wanting that kind of thing, he'll have no actual idea of how to behave, and he'll actually start sexually assaulting people. He needs to be taught about consent ASAP. Reply. I couldn't include that in the post because of the character limit, but I did bring that up to the principal. He seemed shocked and disgusted that I would even suggest that Josh could have sexual intentions. I think he actually does think that Josh has the mental state of a small child and that makes him incapable of being horny. But he's a 16-year-old boy, it's not out of the question. Unfortunately his mom also seems to think this. Commenter 3. NTB zero tolerance policies are bullshit for this reason. She was only defending herself after she was touched without her consent. And I'm assuming she's given Josh warnings before this incident and/or attempt to enforce her boundaries. I'd honestly push the issue of teaching boundaries to Josh and escalate it if teachers/admin try to justify the behavior again. I'm sorry your daughter went through that. I hope she's alright and her being punished is completely unfair. Reply. She has enforced her boundaries multiple times. She always politely tells him no when he tries to touch her, but he just pouts and tries even harder until a teacher comes over to stop him. My husband and a group chat of other parents from the special ed class don't think the detention is necessary, but about half the group chat thinks she should apologize and we should tell her not to hit people. I don't think it's a big deal. She's never hit another kid before, and if she was actually being groped with sexual intent, I would expect her to hit the creep touching her. Update. In my first post, I talked about a repeated issue my autistic daughter, Kayla, 14F has had with a boy in her class that has Down syndrome. Josh, 16M, he has no concept of boundaries and keeps trying to be physically affectionate with people that don't want to be touched, including my daughter. Last week there was an incident where he touched her butt, and she slapped him. The principal wanted to punish her for hitting him, but not Josh because it was just a misunderstanding. The comments under that post were flooded with dozens of stories about people with developmental disabilities that aren't taught boundaries or consent, and go on to commit sexual assault. This honestly has me terrified for the safety of my daughter, and the other kids in her class. What if he's touched other kids inappropriately before? What if he's done even worse? Kayla has a level of mental development to recognize what Josh did was wrong, but I don't know if the other kids in her class would. I showed my husband the Reddit post. He read the comments, and I could see the color drain from his face. He felt awful for suggesting she should apologize to him. We talked for a long time, and decided what to do. First, we sat down with Kayla. We had a long talk about boundaries, bodily autonomy, and consent. We reassured her that protecting herself like that was absolutely the right thing to do. No one should ever touch her like that without her permission. She cried and hugged us a lot. We gave her full permission to stop being polite to Josh. He's had enough polite refusals. If he keeps this up, raise her voice, get aggressive, yell at him, shove him away. It doesn't matter if he cries, she needs to protect herself. And if he gets aggressive or touches her somewhere inappropriate again, she has our full permission to hit him. Sometimes it's better to be safe than polite. We're going to take the advice many people in the comments gave us. We're filing a police report for sexual harassment and assault against Josh, and going above the principal to the superintendent and the school board. Depending on how those meetings go, we might consult a lawyer. Thank you all so much for opening my eyes. I am going to do everything to protect my daughter. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. My brother has Downs. He is very loving and friendly and loves to make people laugh. He also understands he can't just go up and hug or touch people. We taught him very young and reinforced that. Josh is touching people inappropriately and that can set him up for others doing the same to him. His mother and that school is failing him. I hope by you taking things further up the chain of command things get settled. Reply. I feel I should acknowledge this. There are other kids in my daughter's class with Downs, and they're all wonderful kids. Very nice and sweet. A few of them have problems with emotional regulation or following rules, but they're not bad kids at all. Josh and Josh's mother are the problem. Stories number 21. Ida, for distancing myself from my friend after his wife called my wife fat. My wife is not fat, but she has gained weight after she delivered our son and she's still not fat or obese. She used to be skinny and we both think that it is actually a blessing that she has gained some weight. A month ago my wife and me went to dinner with my friend and his wife. We didn't see them in a long time, almost 2 years. He lives in a different country because of his job, and after they came back we planned for dinner. We were enjoying our discussing about our old days, but his wife suddenly said that my wife has become fat, and they are going to stay in our city for a few months and she will hit gym, and asked my wife to join her. My wife said that she doesn't want to hit gym yet, but she said if my wife doesn't hit gym she will gain even more weight and probably turn obese. I interrupted her and said that my wife is not fat, and if she gave birth and if she was in my wife's place she would understand. Our little get-together didn't go well as we were expecting. I was offended and didn't talk to him since last month, and I decided to distance myself from him and his wife. He contacted me and asked me if I took offense with how things went last time. I didn't reply back to him yet, but I want to maintain distance between us and possibly even cut him and his wife off forever. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, of course I took offense and so did my wife. Your wife was incredibly rude to my wife, and instead of apologizing, your wife doubled down after we challenged her. I have no desire to ever be in your wife's company again, as she was judgmental and insulting towards a new mother. Those are not qualities I want in my life. Commenter 2. In a sea of useless spouses and partners here on Reddit, you are an absolute gem. Your wife got herself an absolute keeper. And yes, if cutting him off or going low contact brings you peace, do it. Stories number 22. Aita for using my son's college fund to pay for my daughter's wedding after he dropped out to become an influencer. Okay Reddit, I'm in a massive family feud and I genuinely don't know if I'm the monster here. I 50F and my husband 52M have 2 kids, Mark 21M and Chloe 24F. Since they were born, we've diligently saved for their education. We set up separate college funds for each of them, and we were proud to have saved a significant amount, enough to get them both through a 4-year degree without debt. Chloe used her fund, graduated, and is now a teacher. She's getting married next year to a wonderful man. They are paying for most of the wedding themselves, but like many young couples, they are on a tight budget. Mark started college 2 years ago. To be blunt, he hated it. He was always more interested in his social media presence. Last semester, he officially dropped out to pursue a full-time career as a YouTuber TikTok influencer. He makes videos about crypto and life hacking. He told us college was a scam for sheep and that he would be a millionaire before his friends even graduated. My husband and I were disappointed but believe he's an adult and can make his own choices. The issue is his college fund. It's just been sitting there. He has about $40,000 left in it. A few months ago, Chloe and her fiancé were looking at their wedding budget and were heartbroken that they couldn't afford the venue they dreamed of and would have to cut their guest list drastically. Seeing her so upset, I proposed an idea to my husband: what if we used a portion of Mark's leftover college fund to help Chloe have the wedding she deserves? My reasoning was that the money was always intended for a major life milestone. Since Mark chose not to pursue his education, helping Chloe start her married life felt like a good use of the family's money. My husband agreed. We gave Chloe $15,000 from the fund. She was ecstatic and in tears, and it has made a huge difference in her wedding planning. We didn't tell Mark. We figured it was our money, saved by us for a specific purpose education that he had rejected. Well, last week Mark found out. His friend is marrying at the same venue and he heard how Chloe was suddenly able to afford it. He confronted me, and I was honest. He completely lost it. He said we stole his future and betrayed him. He claimed he was going to use that money to buy new camera equipment and invest in crypto. He said that just because he wasn't following our boomer life script didn't mean we had the right to take his money. He called me an asshole, said I always favored Chloe, and has now blocked me and his dad on everything. My sister says we were wrong and that the money was morally his, regardless of our intentions for it. Chloe feels incredibly guilty, and the whole situation has cast a dark cloud over what should be a happy time. My husband and I are still united, but I'm starting to wonder if we crossed a line. The money was for his education, which he abandoned. We just repurposed it for our other child's major life event. So, Reddit, Aita for giving my daughter money from her brother's college fund after he dropped out. Stories number 23. Overheard the weirdest thing from a couple on a date. Not sure if they're a couple. Sounded like they were on a date at the beach. Can't remember it word for word, but it went like this. Girl, OMG, what's wrong with your toe? Guy, oh that? Not sure really. I play a lot of sports and it usually messes up my toes. Girl, doesn't it hurt? Guy, not really. I didn't even notice when it happened. Just looked down one day and was like, oh. Neat. Girl, paused to process what he just said. How long has it been like that? Guy, a few months I'd say. Girl, I think you should have gone to a doctor, it seems very serious. Guy, nah, there's no need. It's happened before, I'm used to it. Girl, more visible confusion. Guy, but it's starting to heal pretty nicely, see? The nail is recovering well, there's no pain at all and the purple color is slowly fading. I'm glad the nail didn't just fall out. Girl, even more confusion. What? Guy, points to toe C. It's healing. Same on the other foot. Girl, light bulb wait, I'm not talking about that toe. I'm talking about the one next to it. The one that's crooked and looks like it's broken. Guy, oh that, sorry, I forgot how weird it looks because I've always seen it like that. No yeah, I was just born with it bending to the left. Girl, oh okay, that makes more sense. I thought it was broken. Guy, nah, it's just always been like that. 10 seconds of awkward silence. Guy, you want to know what else bends to the... Girl, no. Guy, okay. Stories number 24. Aita for not telling my dad that he wouldn't be walking me down the aisle. So 25-ish years ago 2 dumb 20-year-olds got drunk and made me. They had and still have nothing in common, don't particularly like one another, but for some reason decided to keep me. I always lived with my mom full-time. I love her, don't get me wrong, but she's pretty messy. I have 6 other half-siblings, 2 of them have the same dad. We always had a clean place to live and never went hungry or anything, but I know there were times that she did so we wouldn't. Mom very clearly loves all of us individually and as her family, she's just pretty irresponsible. My dad I'd say more has his shit together, but we're not close. He married Hildy also mid-40s now when I was 6-ish and they had my half-brothers Jesse 16 and Kyle 14 a few years later. They both have really good jobs and a nice house and cars. I know my dad paid child support but their lives simply were very different than mine. I'd come over every other weekend but after a while they were too busy with the other 2 so I'd just wait for dad to text me when he was available. He did, don't get me wrong, but he works a lot so I probably saw him once a month before I went to college, and after that we'd talk every now and then but mainly just see one another on holidays. One of these holidays, Hildy got kind of drunk and told me that after my mom had me my dad basically blocked her and just paid child support until his parents my grandma and grandpa basically shamed him for being a deadbeat and he got some visitation. That hurt a lot to hear, but it made a lot of my childhood make sense. It all came up because she was resentful that he had to pay my mom child support until I was 21, and was saying she had wished I'd skipped college. It's also sad, because I know she was busy with her kids, but I always thought she at least liked me. Like, I know she hates my mom because it was maybe petty but when they had Jesse they replaced my room at their house with the nursery and put my stuff in another one, so my mom filed and was awarded much more child support than she had been getting, and that affected them. It's fine, there was free therapy at college and I'm actually doing great career and mental health wise now, in fact, my fiancé and I make about as much as they do granted less property etc. So I'm in a good place. Literally freshman week I met my now fiancé John 25, but we didn't start dating for 2 years and have been inseparable ever since. His family is amazing, super loving, involved but not pushy, and kind. They do have a lot of money, and IDC if you don't believe me but even if they were broke I'd be so lucky to be marrying into their family. Like, just an example of how amazing they are, his mom gave him her grandmother's ring to propose and has offered me any and all of her or her sister's jewelry to borrow for the wedding. His dad helped my brother get a job in his industry, he deserved it, but it's a hard one to crack into, and even his sister is going to be my MOH. Okay, maybe these are stupid examples, but they've told me before I don't need to apologize for my crazy and kind of trashy mom and have even thanked her for raising the love of their son's life. They're just so happy and positive and full of love, I'm so lucky. I've been so good about setting up boundaries, like with my mom, I laid it out that I'm not her best friend, she's not Lorelai Gilmore and I'm not Rory, I'm her daughter and always have been. We've had some come to Jesus moments but are in a much better place, and I am sad. But also very happy to say that she's been a much more responsible mother to my 4 youngest siblings than she was to my brother Diff Dad Jake 23 and me. And my dad and I have never been close, but I've tried. When John and I were talking about getting engaged, he asked me if I wanted him to ask my dad's permission. At first I said no, what's the point? Then I was like, okay, I'm his only daughter, he's kind of traditional, and he was more or less there for me growing up. So he did, and Dad was tickled pink just as I expected. They never said they had any money for the wedding or offered any, which wasn't shocking or anything, and I didn't ask. So after all that background, we're getting married soon. It will be in John's hometown, which is a pretty nice place that people go to for vacations and they know basically the whole town, so it will be a huge event. His family, and to be honest, we want a big wedding, but since we're just starting our careers out, his parents are paying for the whole thing. I am paying for my dress though, and my mom and younger sibs travel. I kind of just assumed my dad would walk me down the aisle, but a few weeks ago at one of my showers, Hildy was talking with John's mom, who was saying how proud they must have been that I paid my own way through college. Hildy was like, oh yeah, it looked really hard, we're glad that we started saving towards our son's college funds a long time ago, they have more than enough for undergrad and probably grad school. I overheard this and confirmed with John's mom what she said. It hurt so bad. College was a struggle, there were times all I had were multivitamins and PBJS, and only because my mom would send me $20 here and there. Don't get me wrong, I'm also proud of myself, and I know the boys are both their kids while I'm just my dad, so of course they'll give them more, but it really solidified to me who and what I was to them. So I asked my brother Jake to walk me down the aisle. John and his family know about this and 100% support me. Hildy called me yesterday asking about the rehearsal dinner, where they'd need to be and when, and I told her they wouldn't need to be at the church or anything and could just go to the restaurant after. She was like, oh well, how will your dad practice walking you down the aisle? It was super awkward and I let her know Jake would be, but I was excited to see them. A few hours later my dad came to our condo and told me how disappointed he was. He said he's been dreaming of giving me away my whole life. I was in a pretty good headspace luckily and was just like, oh, I didn't know you'd want to and didn't expect you to care, trying to be nonchalant and avoid drama. He was aggressive, though, and wouldn't let it go, saying I was trying to make him look like an idiot, and if Hildy hadn't asked he would have shown up thinking he'd walk me down the aisle. I asked him why he would assume that and he looked at me like I was stupid. But I wanted to hear him say it, and he finally said that any father would expect that. I was just like, sure, but any other father probably didn't ignore their daughter for the first few months of their life, have as minimal custody as possible, or have college funds for some of their kids but not others. They probably did do things like take their daughters on vacation, attend a single father-daughter event, and help them out even though they were legally done. He got mad, but honestly couldn't even argue, and just said he wasn't sure if he approved of this marriage anymore. I told him I wasn't worried about that, and the truth was that we just simply weren't very important people to one another. He got really sad after that and left, and even though John agrees with my decisions, he said I should have given my dad the heads up about what I wanted from him at the wedding. As much as I value his opinion, I also feel like he doesn't get it. His family loves him and would do anything for him and has, while my dad has only ever done the bare legal minimum when I needed him. I never assumed he would help me and he shouldn't assume he can play a role in my wedding. I know I'm not the asshole for having my brother walk me down the aisle, that's no debate. But was I wrong for not directly spelling out for my dad that he would be attending as a guest and only a guest? Aita has no consensus bot, OOP was NTA. Relevant comments. Downvoted commenter 1, YTA. If you only had multivitamins and PBJ in college even though he was still paying child support, it sounds like your mom was using it to pay for her other kids since you paid your whole college. Plus it's your dad who was there. Get over yourself. Reply, until I was 21. The hard years were after that. I didn't graduate with my master's until I was 23. When he was paying child support she sent me money minus the health insurance premium. Commenter 1, not sure how child support works but if your dad had to pay it till you were 21, wasn't that supposed to include tuition as well? Reply, no, the amount didn't change and my mom sent me money for the first few years I was in school from it. It stopped on my 21st birthday and that's when I really started struggling. Sorry for the confusion. Commenter 2, not even remotely close to being an asshole. Your dad has some nerve having expectations of you after not treating you like an equal child your entire life. I'd have punched him at the dreaming of giving me away his whole life. You don't owe him jack shit. Did he give you a heads up before becoming a deadbeat? Did he give you a heads up about not paying for your college but paying for your half-sibling? The audacity to say he doesn't approve. Honestly good, because now you can uninvite him without feeling guilty. Who would want to attend a wedding they don't approve of? Reply, honestly, I doubt he's been dreaming of this for more than a few years. One of my brothers is trans so I'm sure he thought that was his redo daughter he could do all of the father-daughter stuff with, but that isn't happening anymore. Commenter 3, sorry legal bare minimum is invite you to the wedding. Father of the bride costs extra. Be sure to add a speech in about your amazing mother who didn't always have a lot but gave you her last dollar when you couldn't afford food in college. How you've learned the value of struggle and who really shows up for you when it matters. Then ask her to join you for a mother-daughter dance. NTA. Reply, my mom was a billion times better than dad but honestly they both had their own issues. Downvoted commenter 2, I mean, YTA in this circumstance because one of the showers is usually a month before at least. Reply, yes, his family threw a small one because he had some family in from out of the country and it worked out, and my friends are throwing another one for more people. I also clarified for the few people that would be at both that they didn't need to get us gifts for both or any. OOP clarifies on the money she received from her mother that was child support. Reply, Jesus since this keeps coming up, it was the first 2 years of college. She sent me a few $100s but did use the money for my health insurance and if something came up an issue at the house that I lived at in the summer BTW, even if she spent any of it on my siblings it doesn't matter. It was her money. After I turned 21 is when it got hard and she'd sent me $20 when she could. I haven't received a dime from dad since I turned 21. Commenter 4. You should have told him that walking you down the aisle was not required by the court so why would you expect him to do it? Reply, LMAO love it. OOP on having a room at her father's house when she was younger. Reply, I did always have a room to stay in at my dad's even if it wasn't only my room. My mom was mad when I went over one day and my old room was now a nursery and all my stuff was in a guest room. It didn't need to be that big of a deal. OOP responds to multiple comments regarding if her father paid for college. Reply, he did not pay anything for college, he simply had to continue to pay child support an extra 3 years. My dad never tried to have joint custody, most non-custodial parents are ones that don't care to seek more custody. My mom never fought any of our dads who sought 50-50. I paid for my college. He paid nothing for college and has offered the same for the wedding. Update, Aita for not telling my dad he wouldn't be walking me down the aisle. Thanks for all of your comments I think I read all of them. It was very cathartic, and to be honest, even though it was overwhelmingly NTA, I actually started to agree with the YTA folks who were mostly still very nice. I should have put on my big girl pants and just told my dad he would be a guest at my wedding and nothing more. I wasn't doing anyone a favor by not being upfront. I apologized kind of to my fiancé, he totally understood and admitted he doesn't really understand my family dynamic, which I told him I was glad for. I mentioned in some comments, but one of my dad's sons came out as trans a few years ago. I know they were hoping it was a phase, but to their credit they did let him take puberty blockers. Well, it's at this point not looking like a phase anymore, and I think that's where the whole, my only daughter / only chance, came from. In fact, after spending time with Hildy and hearing with horror about the things she's done, my SIL confided in me that she's pretty sure that if he and Hildy did have a daughter, he would refuse to walk me down the aisle before he was able to do it with her. My dad wrote me an email, I'm not going to post it because it's super lame and was just the same old song of poor him, his life is so hard, he wasn't ready to be a dad, he did the best he could, he's always loved me blah blah blah, no action items, no probably false promises to change, nothing new. No, he didn't offer any money for the wedding, but reiterated a lot that he's always dreamed of walking me down the aisle. He did the whole oh I know I haven't been perfect and you deserved a better dad and how he knew he could do better with his grandkids. I just replied that we looked forward to him being a guest at the wedding, and to remind me if they had any food allergies. Unfortunately I care a lot and I know their youngest allergies, but whatever. I had already decided who'd be walking me down the aisle by then, so it didn't matter. My SIL is one of my dearest friends, and she and my fiancé John have been very sweet to me about all of this. They are their parents' only 2 kids and very close. She's the one who convinced me to date John in the first place and I can never stop thanking her. She and my FIL always go don't laugh to this amateur wrestling thing in our city whenever he's in town, drink a lot of beer, and either John or myself pick them up. It's a fun thing, and they've always done it just the 2 of them, so I was shocked and thrilled that she invited me to go with them this past weekend. My FIL kept bragging about his 2 daughters and my SIL told me she's so excited to finally have a sister. I told them my new plan for the ceremony and who would be walking me down the aisle. I had already told Jakers and he approved, and even though they're pretty traditional they thought it was a great idea. I'm excited for the future. I've worked really hard for my life, and yes I got super lucky with John and his family, and it's going to be a great rest of my life, and the wedding will be a great start to it. Sorry for the novels, but TLDR, I will be walking myself down the aisle. Relevant comments. OOP clarifies on if her brother, Jake, is still going to walk her down the aisle. Reply, I was having him walk me down the aisle because he's the closest man I have in my family, and that's what I thought I had to do, be walked down by a family member, ideally a man. But I will be giving myself away. Commenter 1, curious to know some of the horrific things that Hildy has done that makes you know that if Hildy had a girl your dad would have dumped you like yesterday's trash. If it's too personal to tell, it's fine. I am just how curious what a POS Hildy really was. I seriously think some people watch Cinderella and Snow White and think the stepmothers are role models. Reply, my brother is transphobe so yeah. Commenter 1, Hildy is also transphobic, gotcha, total POS. You and your brother deserve happiness. Screw her. Reply, she's not. They've been very supportive of my brother. I'm saying I think a lot of this came out because he realized I'm his only daughter. I'm also almost 100% certain that if he had a daughter with Hildy he wouldn't be allowed to walk me down the aisle until he walked her down first, just like how he was never able to go my father-daughter dances. Fine, in retrospect BC those were cringe. Commenter 2, good for you for standing up for what you want. He doesn't deserve to walk you down the aisle. What a dick with the poor me routine. Just go be happy. Nta. Commenter 3, bio dad doesn't get to skirt the responsibilities of raising you and get to swoop in and play good dad for your accomplishments and celebrations. Good on you and congrats on getting married. Stories number 25. Aita for telling my half-sister that I will never love her, after she told me her daughter could be my bridesmaid. I 28F got married in July. About a week before the wedding my half-sister, Ashley 41F, came to my parents' house to let us know that my niece her daughter 20F would not be my bridesmaid. She made an excuse for her, saying my niece had an injury in her ankle from slipping in school, but there was something fishy about the way she explained it. Ashley kept referencing back about the way that she felt hurt because she herself had not been considered for the wedding party or to be a godmother. I married through Catholic Church, and I explained to her that it was a requirement she was happily married for her to be my godmother, which she is not because she divorced last year. Ashley kept saying that, as my sister, she should have a more prominent role, and that her daughter being a bridesmaid was not enough. She kept comparing herself to my other sister Lucy 24F, who was the Mo. Ashley insisted that she was equally as important as Lucy, or even more because she is older. For a little context, Ashley and I didn't grow up together. She is the daughter of my dad and his first wife. Her mom and my dad divorced when she was 12 and he later married my mom. When I was a child she lived with her mom and only visited a couple times a year. We didn't form a relationship besides the knowledge that she was my dad's kid. Also, I was not invited to her wedding because I was a child when she got married at 21 and her wedding was child-free. On the other hand, I grew up with my other sister Lucy. I saw Lucy grow up and we shared everything. A little infuriated, I asked her how dare she say she was more important than my sister, that she could barely qualify as a family member. Ashley tried to say that we were blood and we were there to love each other and be there for the important stuff. That's when I told her I didn't love her because I didn't know her, and that she could not love me because she didn't know me. She was visibly upset but she didn't respond, she just said bye to my dad and left. A couple days later, my cousin another bridesmaid ran into my niece at school, and she was playing volleyball so not apparent ankle injury. Ashley showed up to the ceremony alone, took a quick photo and left, didn't go to the reception. Now a month later, looking at the only photo of Ashley I wonder if I was too harsh or if I should apologize. Any thoughts? Tia. Edit 1, for context. This was a Catholic wedding in Latin America. There's many that think I am lying about the have to be married part. I am not. I assumed it was like that for the rest of the world, I just realized it isn't. Here is a source in English that explains the watch over godparents, which are the ones she wanted to be. In Spanish they are called padrinos de velation, there's more information about them in Spanish. Stories number 26. Aita for digging into my brother's girlfriend's past and telling him the results. My younger brother, Adam, had a rough childhood, to say the least. Our father passed away when he was under 10 from cancer. Our mother is likely bipolar but definitely narcissistic tendencies and abusive. I'm older by a decade and did what I could when I could for him but basically I failed to protect him, didn't understand what he needed. All that to say that his descent into alcoholism wasn't a surprise, it was expected. A couple years ago he had an incident that caused him hospitalization and began his recovery and sobriety. He's over 2 years clean now, hugely due to the new relationship he started months after his incident with a kind-hearted lovely woman, I'll call her Eve. He brought Eve over to meet us shortly after they met and she's been a welcome part of our family. She makes gifts for my kids and treats. She's always fun to speak to and her quirkiness fits in beautifully. As we got to know her, we've learned about how traumatic her life has been. They're kinda trauma bonded but she's so understanding and empathetic. She told us about her twin who passed away in high school, how her siblings and parents loved him more and treat her badly as the survivor that was always less than. She also had another brother who passed away in war in Iraq, that was the golden child after her twin passed. She couldn't seem to gain her mother's approval or attention and we bonded over those feelings of not being wanted or good enough. She told us she was originally from Scotland. Her father was a sheep farmer who moved to America to buy a cattle farm because of the cowboy movies, so she has dual citizenship. She also said because of this she spoke 16 languages. She worked at a college and had multiple degrees too. Overall she was incredibly nice, took good care of Adam and seemed super well educated and proper. Sometimes she had her Scottish accent too, because she'd been around her family. Then she started to tell us about her past relationships, 3 divorces. One was from a person who had gender reassignment surgery, the other passed away by his own hands and the last had attempted to take her life, shot her and then had ran from the cops to a ditch where he passed away. She showed my kids the scar. I felt like after 2 years of knowing her, she was a great fit, so last week when they had a bad argument I tried to reassure Adam. I had him come over to talk and he told me that she had lied to him about not speaking to a friend of hers anymore. Some guy who was apparently a popular guy in high school. She lied because she didn't want to believe he wasn't a good guy because she's had so much bad luck with men. Adam was struggling to move past the lying but wanted to work it out, and I support him in whatever he does. I talked to my husband about it and he asked the most basic question: how does she have a high school popular kid here in town if she was raised in Oklahoma on a cattle farm? Honestly, I have PTSD, so my brain sometimes gets mixed up. I assumed I was wrong. It turned over and over in my head though, for a couple days. I finally caved while my husband played video games and began a casual search into her. Googled her name and her address came up. Then I realized her history of addresses were all in America, all going back pretty far. So I checked her parents and their addresses went back in America to before she was born. I was so confused I googled them and found recent obituaries of her grandparents on both sides. They're all from America. And they only mention 3 kids by her parents, ever. Obituaries usually list preceded in death, and these do, but no grandkids in that list. No additional brothers of hers. Not only that, but she lived at the same address her whole life in Kansas. I looked it up on a map and found a high school nearby and searched the yearbook. Found her 12th grade, no twin, okay, but he passed away, so I checked 9th grade, also no twin. The deeper I dug, the more proof of the lies. Only 2 marriages on record, both still alive. One did change names from male in the marriage to female in the divorce, but that seems to be the only true thing she's ever said. It's absolutely shocking. Finally my husband said I had to tell Adam. I was against it, and then as the pile got larger I said it was an in-person conversation. He insisted it needed to be done, so I put it all together into a document and messaged Adam. I asked a few clarifying questions, about the twin and the ex-husbands. I apologized and provided the information to him and hoped I was wrong. Within 10 minutes of sending it to him, he said that she admitted everything to him. He's absolutely lost now. 2 whole years, so many lies. I'm just baffled. Why? Like if they ever got married it would have unraveled so quickly. As it stands, she's been able to keep him away from her family by allowing them to disrespect their age gap. He's noticeably younger than her. She refused to go to an uncle's funeral earlier this year because she claimed he was a predator. I hate questioning that, but maybe she just didn't want Adam to find out that her uncle was born and raised in Kansas, not Scotland, and so was her dad. She was here with my kids, having them feel the bullet-wound scar from an incident that never happened. There's no criminal records for either of the exes. There's none for her either, thankfully, but good lord. I wish I could put the cat back in the bag on this one. Why lie? And why didn't I check her background sooner? I literally checked the kids my kids stayed in high school to make sure their parents aren't on a registry or anything. I should have checked her much sooner. Now the life and family they were building is in ruins and I'm terrified of him losing his sobriety. I'm feeling really guilty for looking it up and telling him too, not sure I did the right thing because he's heartbroken. Ada. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you didn't get SUS when she said she spoke 16 languages. Reply, no, because she actually spoke something when asked to speak each language by my kids. I only know English, enough Spanish to ask where the bathroom and library is, and some sign language from when I was a kid, so super rusty, think alphabet, every cuss word and thank you basically. There are people who speak lots of languages, and again, she worked at a college where she had claimed to gotten multiple degrees, so she could have taken language classes there. It didn't come off as lies or exaggeration. I'm generally very skeptical of everyone, but she's older than me and had worked there for many years, so it didn't seem like a stretch if she's got no kids and has had 25 years to do anything she wanted with her life. Commenter 2, she told us she was originally from Scotland. Her father was a sheep farmer who moved to America to buy a cattle farm because of the cowboy movies, so she has dual citizenship. She also said because of this she spoke 16 languages. Not being funny, but how does having dual citizenship with the UK bestow upon her 16 languages? Did they plug her into the matrix? She worked at a college and had multiple degrees too. Please be less gullible, going forward. Life is full of bullshitters, but the beauty of them is they're easy to spot because they always go too far. 16 languages, multiple degrees that haven't turned into anything, 3 divorces. Who has the time? Reply, well, her degrees did turn into something. She worked at a college the time, and when that job ended she's now working as an engineer. If you work at a college they let you take classes free or reduced. She probably has some of the degrees and she could have taken the language classes. There's people famous here for learning lots of languages, and she called herself a polyglot. I have a friend who is learning Japanese with a tutor and she talked about different tutors she'd used and programs too. It seemed legit but obviously everything she said did and it was all lies. She's old enough to have been divorced 3 times as well, seemed like tragically bad luck or poor judgment but being raised by a narcissist with traumatic childhood made me give her grace and assume she was targeted for being too nice. I really want to argue that I'm not gullible but I have to explain this to my oldest kid when they get back from a trip next week and the only explanation is that I was incredibly gullible. My oldest kid is also super fond of this woman and I know it's going to hurt. OOP explains on how long it took to figure things out with her brother's girlfriend's background. Reply, well, it was about 4 to 5 hours. It takes a lot of connecting family members and addresses to find the right obituaries and such. I did it for both sides of her family and then the yearbooks are saved with pages you have to individually flip. So I went to the last page and scrolled forward to the index, go the list of places she was pictured, noticed she had no sibling no same last name then scrolled page by page to the class photo for the link to attach to the list for him. Going through the court records was time-consuming as well because of registering for it and then opening every single file because I don't know what the case numbers mean for each state to know which ones to skip. She's small and has a lot of medical issues, which as I say that maybe so doesn't. Geez. Well she claims a lot of them, he's about 10 years younger, over 6 feet and over 200 pounds. I call him my little big brother because he's very Viking. He's safe I think and she's caught red-handed. He also works nights so after their talk he left and won't be back until this morning. I warned him the meltdown could be huge but he said she was just super remorseful. He's debating on if he stays with her because it was just for attention. He loves her and this is really messed up. Thank you, I had some training in my degree path on how to search Google and use these free data aggregation sites with my community college cybersecurity degree. I haven't used it at all except for in hackathons and this weird pastime now of looking into people that join my circle. I had tried to look her up once or twice before but her social media had a different last name and nothing came of it. Honestly if she hadn't updated it recently to her actual last name I don't think I could have figured it out. You're absolutely limited by what information you have to start with. What's even dumber is I actually had a copy of her driver's license last fall when I helped Adam buy a car and get full coverage insurance. I didn't even look at it, just passed it on to my agent and deleted it. Final update, Aita for digging into my brother's girlfriend's past and telling him the results. To catch up, brother's girlfriend of 2 years was lying about her past, from the traumatic passing of a made-up twin, made-up older brother, 2 ex-husbands who are still very much alive, a made-up ex-fiancé and a made-up loss of a child, made-up assault during their relationship that she used to control him, to inventing having multiple degrees speaking 16 languages. When I posted, I had uncovered some of the lies and forwarded him the proof. She had come clean immediately and taken him to visit her parents to explain it. She has untreated borderline personality disorder apparently. My brother, who I called Adam for this, is a recovering alcoholic with a huge heart. He was absolutely determined to stay with her and not toss her aside for being human. He thought this was the righteous and noble thing to do, to not discard someone who is struggling or damaged in their time of need. My husband and I were determined to support him regardless of his choice because we love him. She told him she could never be around us again and she was scared of us. We assured him that we would never be rude to anyone he dated and that we were more than capable of being around her. I genuinely think when she realized that we weren't going to let her isolate him by pretending like she had a reason to fear us, it was over for her. It lasted only a week after our dinner with him where we showed him unconditional support and reminded him that he was the victim, repeatedly. The following week, she went out with friends to a bar. He asked where she went and with who, since this whole thing started because she was lying about not hanging out with some jerk that didn't respect my brother or their relationship. She said that she didn't have to show Adam anything to prove where she had been and that she can't heal like this. She expected to play the victim to him, as if him asking for accountability and transparency was him being controlling. Then he said that he can't be in a relationship where he can't trust someone she was clearly hiding who she was with and where she was. In response, she gave him 30 days to move out. So, this weekend we are moving him into his own place. He's, of course, still reeling from the whiplash of whatever the heck the last 2 years of lies have been with a woman he thought he would marry. He has a strong support system though and he's absolutely going to get through this. He's even quitting smoking during this. Which I could not imagine trying to do in this level of choice but he is determined. Thank you everyone for the advice and support. Please don't be gullible like we were and if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I'm so curious, what were the 16 languages? Reply, well, she claimed to be dual citizen with Scotland, so she said all the languages from that area as well as obscure ones. The ones I remember were like Scottish, Gaelic, German. Obviously not Spanish because we would have immediately caught that lie. She must have memorized phrases in each language because when asked, she would recite some things that sounded like they were appropriate. It was just like a random factoid she'd say, and the kids would ask her to say a cuss word or something and we'd move on in the conversation. I never got a complete list, but I absolutely should have asked for it. Commenter 2, just in case you didn't know, you fucking rock. The way you are your brother's keeper and have his back 100% is great. She knew she wasn't going to be able to keep playing him with you in his corner, and that's why her ass had to go. Congratulations on getting this dirt bag. See you next Tuesday out of your brother's life. Reply, thank you for saying this. I felt like such an asshole for snooping, and even more so when it started to unravel her lies. He is genuinely heartbroken and he didn't deserve this, so I am working hard to make sure he has everything he needs for this move and he doesn't have to stress as much. I'm really glad he is taking it as well as he is and that he doesn't seem to hate me for it. Sometimes delivering the bad news makes you part of the problem because people can't separate the hurt. I just want him to be okay. Commenter 3, as someone who has a degree in psychology, that's a lot more than BPD. It is typically intense and unstable moods, impulsive behaviors, fear of abandonment, and inconsistent self-image. They typically also struggle with depression, drug addiction, anxiety, or PTSD. Manipulating behavior also occurs. Which does sound like what she was doing most by lying to him so much. Is it just untreated BPD or undiagnosed? Because if she is undiagnosed, then you can't even trust that fully either, and she seriously needs to go seek help to get properly diagnosed and treated. Reply, according to what her parents told me brother, she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder in her late teens. She's 43 now. She agreed to go back to therapy following the revelation, but I don't know if she ever actually did. I asked my brother if he was going to go with her to a session to discuss with the therapist what happened and its impact on him, and he was considering it prior to the relationship ending. Not sure if it ever happened. Her parents apologized to my brother, told him he was a great person and they respected him for staying with her despite her lies. Not sure how she's twisting it against him now that he's leaving, but before she deleted me on social media she was posting some pretty woe is me victim statements about the relationship ending. OOP on how she and her family believed her brother's ex's lies. Reply, yes, we did believe all of it. My life has been somewhat tumultuous and there have been people who didn't believe me because the amount of craziness and trauma in it seems made up. My brother lost his father at 9 from cancer. He was my stepdad who raised me. My brother's best friend and him are trauma bonded because he lost his mother at a young age. My brother tends to attract people with loss, so her losses made sense as to why they bonded. Our mother is a narcissist that I'm estranged from, and he still talks to. She's raised us to be the perfect targets for ill behavior because we weren't taught what normal behavior is. Although I've had enough therapy, I thought I was better at spotting it. We have a couple of siblings that have been to jail and are probably undiagnosed BPD or something else. As an example of our life stories, we lost an aunt to a drunk driver after a year-long coma, lost our great-grandma to SI, her father had done the same. I've had a miscarriage past the first trimester, have a narcissist ex-husband who was abusive, had to have a restraining order against him and no contact order for my kid. I've been assaulted twice. Most recent one I was diagnosed with PTSD and had 5 years of therapy following it. DBT, MG, CBT and group therapy. We've had enough trauma in our lives that her trauma didn't seem impossible. It just made me feel like damn, I met someone with a rougher life than I've had, mine's not so bad. I know that reading the lies she said must seem fantastical, but we learned these different stories over the course of 2 years, while sharing our life stories with her. At the time, it seemed genuine. When she claimed to have been assaulted, she literally played the part well enough that as a victim of assault I believed her. She suddenly had long sleeves in the summer and kept tugging at her clothes, her eyes darted around the room, she seemed like she couldn't breathe or get comfortable and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. The level of pretend this lady played was fit for Broadway. I'm not generally a gullible person, she has been doing this so long it's a craft, and she absolutely had me fooled as well as everyone she met when with us. I don't blame us for believing her necessarily, and I know this is an extreme example of lying. Yes, we will be more skeptical about people moving forward, but this is so not normal. I highly doubt we will ever meet someone that lies like this again. Stories number 27. Son wrote me a letter saying he was depressed. I have a 14-year-old son. I work from home some days and this morning there was a letter on my desk from my son. It said, I just wanted to let you know that I've been feeling really sad and lonely lately and I'm just tired of feeling this way all the time. I don't know why I feel this way. My life is perfect. I just wish I could be happy sometimes like everyone else. I know you think I'm lazy sometimes but I'm trying my best. Life is just so hard. Please don't make a big deal out of this or ask me about it. I don't want to see a therapist. Please don't treat me any differently, I just really wanted to tell someone. I'm sorry. Don't worry about me. I will be okay, I promise. Please don't tell Mom. Ugh, that hurt my heart so much. I feel terrible he thinks I'm hard on him. These feelings kinda scare me. I really want to talk to him about it. But I'm trying not to make it a big deal like he says. I want to tell my wife but I want him to trust me too. Maybe I should write a letter back. I'm not sure. Or what I'd even say. I don't mean to share my personal problems online, I just want to do the right thing here. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Open the letter with, "Hi depressed, I'm Dad." Jokes aside, I went through a similar phase in my youth and the thing that helped most was compassionate and caring parents that I could trust and speak openly to. OP, it sounds like you have fostered a similar environment with your son and you both sound like a couple of great guys. I definitely agree with the idea of writing a letter back. Commenter 2. Yeah, I think I would start with a letter back. Just make sure you say you hear him and thanks for the letter. Can also tell him those feelings are totally normal at 14 and there are chemicals that change our minds and feelings that are starting in his body now. I like to pep talk on the core stuff. You have family and friends who love you, you are learning and growing every day. The world is kinda crazy sometimes but I got your back and we are going to have fun and learn and grow together. Maybe even offer a weekend trip or something cool he would like if you can swing it. Best of luck Dad. My kid is only 4 so these are just thoughts, not experienced recommendations FYI, but I feel proud that he loves and respects you to tell you in such a formal direct way. Update, son wrote me a letter saying he was depressed. I debated whether to provide an update, didn't want to share too much online, but I appreciated the advice and decided to post in case it helps anyone else. I decided to write him back. I took forever writing and rewriting my letter, trying to get it perfect and say the right thing. Not sure if I ever completely got there but this is what I wrote him. I used some ideas y'all gave me as well. Dear son, thank you for telling me how you are feeling. That was very brave of you. I'm so proud of you bud. I'm so sorry you are feeling this way. That's so tough dude. Being a teen is really hard these days. I bet even the ones that look happy feel sad and lonely sometimes too. You're definitely not alone. I'm sorry if I have been hard on you. I don't think you are lazy. I know you are capable of so much and I'm sorry if I push a little too hard. I know you don't want me to treat you different, but I'm your dad and I don't want you to feel this way. What you said was very heavy and I don't want you to have to carry that burden alone. I'd really like to talk to you about it sometime if you'd let me. But if you'd rather write me another letter that's okay too. I plan to give you a big hug the next chance I get and leave the rest to you. I haven't told Mom yet but she really cares about you and would want to be there for you and I don't want to have to keep this secret from her. Could I just tell her you've been feeling a little down lately but you don't want to talk about it? Please let me know soon. I love you so much bud. You got this, we will get through this together. Dad, he came to me not too much later and gave me a hug. We hugged for a really long time. While we were hugging he said you can tell Mom. Just tell her not to ask me about it. I said okay. He went to leave but I said hey bud could we maybe sit and talk a bit? I know it's awkward but I'll try not to make a big deal about it okay? He said okay. We talk a bit. Not going to get into too much personal details but he shares some about how he's been feeling. He starts crying a little as we talk. Then he says this is why I didn't want to talk about it. I knew I would start crying. I'm sorry, I don't even know why I'm crying right now. I tell him it's okay to cry. Later I bring up therapy again. I say I know you said you didn't want therapy but I don't think it would hurt to talk to someone every now and then. He said I don't want to sit around talking to a random person about my feelings. That doesn't sound fun. I said you can talk about anything. Not just feelings. Just about life and stuff. Could you give it a try and then we can quit if you don't like it? He said if I do it can you go with me? I don't want to go by myself sure bud, whatever you need. Okay. I guess you can look into it and stuff. No promises though. I say okay. Eventually he goes to leave but then he stops and asks could I get another hug? So I do. I say I'm so proud of you dude. He says why do you keep saying that? I say 'cause I am. You're such a smart, kind kid and the fact that you are brave enough to share all this with me is so cool. I'm so glad I get to be your dad. He says I'm glad you're my dad too. It's been a few days now. We haven't talked about it since. I've been trying to treat him normally like he asked. Can't help but give him a few more hugs than normal, but he's been okay with that. Been trying to sneak in a few compliments here and there to maybe help him feel better. I've gotten a few eye rolls but I think he secretly likes it. Still working on the therapy details, I know it's not an easy fix and I still don't know what I'm doing half the time, but I'm feeling a little more hopeful. Thanks again. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I would have killed to have an experience like this with my dad when I was 14 and feeling like that. You did real good, but don't give up on therapy. One thing I would say if he brings up it being a random person is that the idea is that you see them regularly so they stop being a random person and start being a trusted partner in your well-being. Commenter 2. Tell you what, Ope, I wish my dad wrote back. Thanks for inspiring the next generation. Commenter 3. Read this as my 14-year-old self. I may have more trauma than I thought. Phew. What a wild and short ride. Commenter 4. This is why I didn't want to read this post. I knew I would start crying. Commenter 5. It's okay to cry, can I tell you something? I'm proud of you. Stories number 28. Aita for saying my parents need some help to accept my half-sister choosing her mom over us. My parents met when my half-sister was 2. My dad and half-sister's mom were not together and dad had primary custody of my half-sister at the time. Her mom was in prison for something. She got out when my half-sister was 3 and got visitation and then some custody. But she was flaky and inconsistent. My parents got married and had me 17M, my sister 15F and brother 13M after a few years. I remember my half-sister always being willing to drop us if her mom showed up. She'd turn mom down for stuff because she was hoping her mom would do it instead. Sometimes she'd agree to stuff with mom and if her mom was like yeah I'll come she told mom not to go with her and she wanted her real mom to be there. My parents had my half-sister in therapy, they talked to her about respecting plans and not playing with people. But she never cared if she hurt our feelings. There was a time she literally ran out of my birthday dinner because her mom texted to meet her and dad chased her down but she kept going. She said she was going to spend time with her mom regardless of what anyone else wanted and when he asked about me she said I wasn't her real brother anyway. When my half-sister turned 18 she went to live with her mom and they bounced around for a year before my half-sister got her own place. Then she moved her mom in and let her mom live there whenever she wanted. She really didn't show up to anything with our family once she left but after that it was even less. She answered calls less often too. Then she got married at 21 and her mom was there. My parents' feelings were so hurt and my sister's feelings were too because her only sister got married and didn't want her there. Contact went up a while after the wedding but we only saw her once and she didn't bring her husband with her. Then my parents became more upset when they learned my half-sister had a baby and didn't tell any of us she was pregnant. My dad called and tried to set up a chance for us to see each other and meet the baby but she had excuses and then told him she was giving her mom lots of time with the baby. My parents became super obsessed with her socials after that and were sad every time she shared something about her mom with her baby. But there was a lot of times it wasn't photos and was just stuff she'd write and she'd talk about how those infrequent visits were amazing. Then she showed up to my dad's job and brought her kid so he could meet his grandchild but said no to letting my mom or any of us join to meet the baby. So we still never met the baby and I'm not bothered. My sister is but my parents most of all. They are so upset that she'd choose an inconsistent mom who's been to prison over a family who were there and stable throughout her childhood. My parents discussed it in front of me the other weekend when my siblings weren't home so I brought up how I thought they should get some help to accept things. I said they're so distracted by her choices that it's spilling into them being here for us and we're all still here. They were surprised but said they'd talk about it and then my grandma asked me why I tried to shame them. My parents said they had never said that and all they did was ask if she'd noticed. She was saying I wouldn't understand because I'm not a parent but they don't need help to accept anything because they're allowed to be hurt and struggle with the fact one of their children is choosing a flake over them and bringing their grandchildren up to do the same. Which then brought up that my half-sister is pregnant again, I guess. Who the fuck knows anymore? Grandma got kicked out for what she said and my parents apologized. But am I too harsh on them? Stories number 29. Aita for forgetting my wife's birthday for about 20 minutes. My wife's birthday was on Saturday. We took Friday off to celebrate together while our toddler son was at preschool. I went and got a pedicure with her while she got a manicure in the morning. We went to brunch at the restaurant of her choice and then we went to a resort for the day to swim and relax. I went and picked up our son after that, and then we went and met friends for dinner. We went home, got the kid to bed and got kind of drunk and had sex and went to bed late. Pretty great day. The next morning our son wakes up around 5:45 a.m., she hops out of bed to let him go potty and then I get up to take care of him so she can sleep longer. I spend the next 15 to 20 minutes or so playing with my son and getting him situated and happy and then I realize oh crap it's her birthday. I grab my son and say let's go sing happy birthday to your mom. We go to the bedroom and sing to her, she gives zero reaction. She says nothing and won't even look up from bed. She is furious the rest of the morning and will barely speak to me. I try to give her a card and her gift and she ignores it. I decide to take my son to an indoor playground so she can have some alone time. She had mentioned the night before that she now also wanted a pedicure. I was a little hesitant about it because we had just spent a good amount of money the day before and things are a little tight, but then I say just go treat yourself. While we are at the playground she says she is going to get the pedicure and I send a treat yourself gif. I get home and she is being a little more friendly, we get our son down for a nap and I try to come cuddle with her and she basically pushes me away and is back to being mad at me. She brings up that I didn't tell her happy birthday in the morning and says I didn't make her feel special. I take her to dinner at the restaurant of her choice. She is angry the entire time, barely says a word to me. She finally cools off after we get our son to bed. The next day she is once again mad at me and today she is also pissed at me, both days referencing that I forgot her birthday. Am I the asshole? Stories number 30. Aita for not wanting my stepdaughter's boyfriend at the house because he's my daughter's ex. I have a daughter, Ally 16 and my husband has a daughter, Mia 15. They go to the same school, but they aren't close at all. Ally had a crush on this kid Leo for about a year. She would talk about him to me a lot, and I would try and give her tips on how to get closer to him. Eventually they became friendly, and I encouraged her to ask him out on a date, which she did, in March, and they started dating. She brought Leo to our house eventually, and he was a sweet, quiet kid, kind of awkward but nice. I thought they were a good fit because Ally is similar. Leo spent a lot of time at our place over the few months he and Ally were together, but in early July, he dumped Ally, seemingly out of the blue. Ally was devastated, and I did my best to help her through it. 3 weeks later, Ally finds out it wasn't really out of the blue. According to the grapevine, Leo had a crush on Mia, and heard through friends that Mia also had a crush on him, so dumped Ally to have a chance with Mia, and they were now together. Ally was even more upset. For the last month, Mia has been spending time at our house with Leo. She lives between here and her mother's house but our place is closer to Leo's and their other friends so they're here more often. This has been really miserable for Ally, who I sometimes runs into them in the den or kitchen. To be clear, I don't think Mia is doing this on purpose, the girls don't have any conflict but aren't close and we don't force them to be. I don't think Mia is thinking about Ally at all, but that doesn't make it any easier. Ally has really been struggling and has been withdrawing more and more when she is home. I brought up to my husband that I didn't think it was fair for Mia to be bringing Leo over to the house, given the circumstances. My husband said it's Mia's house as much as Ally's and that if Ally can have a boyfriend over Mia can too and he wasn't going to tell his daughter she can't spend time here. His other reason for wanting them over here is that he doesn't want Mia to start hanging out at Leo's, as Leo's dad had some legal trouble a while back not anything related to children or Leo and is very permissive, so he prefers the kids hang out here than there. I see his point but Ally is really having a hard time bumping into Leo. My husband thinks it's teenage drama that needs to be got over, because in his words Leo will be on to the next girl in a few months and he's not making his daughter feel pushed out over a boy no one will remember by Christmas. I understand his point, but in the meantime it's my daughter that's feeling pushed out and like no one cares about her feelings. I have full custody so it's not like Ally can go anywhere else, while Mia has a whole other house if she could be bothered to drive there. I know this is just teenage crap and maybe I'm being overprotective but my husband is acting like I'm off base for even suggesting there might be a compromise. He keeps saying I'm feeding into teen drama. So Aita. Stories number 31. Roller coaster ride for entitled family that tried to ruin our anniversary day out. So this happened a few weeks ago at this theme park near my home. I was there with my girlfriend, we were celebrating our first anniversary. She had never been to this place but I used to go there growing up, so we were both quite excited. We'd been waiting in line for a half hour, but I kept telling my GF it would be worth it because that coaster that has the best views. We finally get to the front of the line and the attendant directs us to the front carriage, exactly what we wanted. As we're getting settled in, I hear loud talking coming from behind us, getting closer and closer. This family of 4 parents and 2 teenage kids roves into view and gets assigned to the second carriage. The dad immediately starts complaining to the ride operator that his family needs the front carriage because it's his son's birthday. The operator explains that seats have already been assigned, we were there first, and we're already settled in. At this point the mom turns to us directly and goes, "Would you mind switching with us? It's my son's birthday." I politely said no, we've been waiting just as long and specifically wanted these seats. That's when Dad decided to wade in with a "Come on, don't be selfish, we have kids here and you're just a couple." My girlfriend tried to be diplomatic and suggested they could enjoy the ride from any seat, but Mom cut her off, "We paid just as much as you to be here. The least you could do is be considerate." At this point I should say I thought I'd seen my GF mad before, but this comment did something I'd never seen. When she gets mad she usually gets quiet. Turns out going quiet is just level 1. This family had just unlocked level 2. My GF goes bright red and starts yelling, "We're not moving, we paid for these seats, you need to stop harassing us and enjoy your own ride." The dad tried pathetically to argue with the ride operator again, holding up the whole process, until finally the operator said if they didn't get in their assigned seats immediately they'd be removed from the ride entirely. They sat down but spent the entire ride making loud comments about selfish people and how we were ruining their special day. Here's where it gets good though. About 2 hours later we're in line at the bar when we hear this commotion nearby. Guess who? Same family, but now they're arguing with 3 security guys. Apparently they'd been caught line jumping multiple times throughout the day, and someone had reported them for harassing other guests. Security was explaining that they were being ejected from the park. The mom was practically screaming about how they'd driven 4 hours and spent hundreds of dollars, while the dad kept demanding to speak to a manager. The kids were mortified, especially when a crowd started gathering to watch the spectacle. As they were being escorted out, the mom actually spotted us in line and started pointing, yelling something about us starting all this by not giving up our seats. Security just kept walking them toward the exit while she ranted. We ended up having an amazing rest of the day without running into them again. I felt a little bad for the kids, but honestly, if you act entitled and rude all day, eventually it's going to catch up with you. At least it was an anniversary to remember. Stories number 32. Aita for refusing to let my husband's cousin stay with us after what she said about me. So my husband M33 and I F30 live in a modest but comfortable home. We both work full-time, and while we're not rolling in cash, we've built a life we're proud of. I handle most of the household stuff because I work from home, but we split bills and major decisions equally. Last month, his cousin F28 messaged him asking if she could stay with us for a few weeks while she looked for work in our area. I was open to it at first until I remembered what happened at a family gathering earlier this year. She had made a snide comment about me being too bossy and wearing the pants in the relationship. She said it loud enough for others to hear, and when I confronted her, she brushed it off as a joke. My husband told her to chill, but didn't really defend me beyond that. I let it go at the time, but it stuck with me. So when she asked to stay, I told my husband I wasn't comfortable with it. I said I didn't want someone in our home who disrespects me and undermines our relationship. He said I was being petty and that family helps family. I reminded him that I'm also his family, and I deserve respect in my own home. He got quiet, then said I was making him choose sides. I told him it's not about sides, it's about boundaries. Now his cousin's telling everyone I'm controlling and selfish, and some of his relatives are chiming in. My husband's been distant since, and I'm starting to wonder. Aita for saying no. Stories number 33. 47M How to deal with wife's 46F infidelity from a long time ago. I've been married to my wife for over 2 decades. We've known each other for close to 3. We were childhood sweethearts. We have 3 children together who are all now adults. This year will be our silver anniversary, so I think we've done well. Of course, we've had our ups and downs, like all marriages do, and we've always worked through the issues. Just recently, however, we were reminiscing over the days when we were kids and dating, and she let slip about the time she cheated on me before we were married. I forgave her back then because I thought it was just a silly bit of kissing. Turns out it wasn't. We met each other when I had just turned 18, she was 16 coming up 17. We were friends for about a year first, but, just before my 19th b-day, we finally started seeing each other. Everything was going good between us, but one night on my way home, I was walking past her ex's house. I heard talking and thought I'd pop in and say hello. Me and her ex were friends back then. To my surprise, my wife then GF was there. I thought it a bit fishy, so I asked what was going on. My wife said they were just chatting, and she was just leaving. I offered to walk her home, she said no, which again, I found a bit odd. The following morning, when I went to see her, she told me that she had something to tell me. I sat down and said, sure, okay. She then told me that her and her ex were kissing and that she was really sorry, it'll never happen again, etc. I took a day away from her to give myself time to think about it, and ultimately decided to forgive her. After all, it was just a bit of kissing. I mean, how much can you get up to in a front garden? We got married a year later and everything has been good. The first 6 years or so were a bit testing for us because we were married young. But, we got through it because our love for each other was strong. Fast forward to a few months ago, and we were having a few drinks and reminiscing over the days when we were kids and dating. We got on the subject of cheating, and she asked me why I didn't dump her back then. I explained that in my eyes it was just a kiss and that I had forgiven her for it because I loved her, and I wasn't going to let a one-time silly kiss ruin that. She then said, but it wasn't just a kiss. A little taken back, I looked at her and asked what she meant. She then told me she had been seeing him every night since we had started dating, and it wasn't just kissing, it was sexual. I was honestly stunned and didn't quite know what to do. I shouldn't have, but I started to ask her for more details. She filled me in on what they were doing with each other every night, and it kind of made me feel a little sick. Thankfully, there was no intercourse. She was adamant about that. She was also very adamant that she had been faithful to me since that day. After that night, I said to her, I needed a little time because whilst it had happened for her over 2 decades ago, it had only just happened for me because I'd only just been filled in on the depth of the cheating. I reached out to talk with friends about it. They just thought I was being silly because of the amount of time that had passed. Am I being silly? I mean, if I had known what was really going on back then, my entire life would be different now. I don't think I would have married her for one. But I did because as far as I knew, it was just a kiss. Now it just feels like my entire marriage has been a lie, a dupe if you like. A month or so passed, and I've been trying to tell myself that it was a long time ago and that I should, like my friend suggested, stop being silly. But I can't. The thought of her with him doing the things that they were doing just keeps swimming around in my mind. A few days ago, we had a big talk. I wanted to get a better understanding as to why she did it. A lot more things came out as she wanted to be as truthful with me as possible, she said. She even told me about things that happened before me, even though it was none of my business because it was before I started dating her, but she told me that she had even cheated on her ex with multiple lads whilst on a 2-week trip to Spain with her parents. One of the lads had taken her to the beach and had got to third base with her. She let him do it. When she came home, she then dumped her ex and started dating me. She then cheated on me with him. After hearing all of what she had to say, I just got a sick feeling in my stomach. I've known this girl for 3/4 of my life, I've been married to her for half of it. Now I just can't get rid of the thoughts about her doing the things she did when she was young. She told me people can change, and yes, I agree they can, but there's a little voice in my head saying once a cheater, always a cheater. I don't know if I can ever trust her again. Things will never be the same for me, and I hate feeling like this towards her. So, I don't know where to go from here. I'm trying to let it all go and just get on with our lives, but I've become extremely depressed and snappy towards people. I'm full of sadness because it turns out my perfect wife and perfect marriage have been a lie. TLDR, my wife cheated on me over 2 decades ago. I forgave her back then, but I've just found out she lied to me about the context of the cheating, and now I don't know if I can trust her anymore. I just want to stop feeling like this. How do I move on? Stories number 34. If you don't buy things, don't be surprised when there are none left. Long story short, I lived with my asshat brother more like he lived with me, or off me. Anyway, I was nice and he was actually saying nasty stuff behind my back which I did not know at the time to my mom, so I had a lot of fights with her, and because she would always nag me I still did most if not all the shopping without noticing. IDK one day I was just too tired and I really had enough because I worked really far away 3H to 3H 30 trip per day, so when I get home almost every shop would be closed. He worked 2 minutes walk from my place, literally the same street. He could go shopping on his lunch break or after leaving work easily, and we had shops nearby 3 small supermarkets in a 5 minutes walk radius, bakery in front of the building. A big supermarket 20 minutes by foot 2 minutes by tramway or train. So I had noticed that we were running out of toilet paper and I was just like F it. I have stocked the fridge and bought necessities, so I didn't really need to go shopping and I decided not to go buy some, which would mean leaving work early or getting it overpriced from the only small convenience store nearby that closed at midnight. I know it was stupid and maybe I should have done that with the food because it was not about revenge or anything, just me fed up. Well, the effect was way better than anticipated. He had a friend visiting for the weekend and of course why would he inform me, so I didn't know. The guy is in the toilet, calls my brother to say, where do you put the toilet paper? My brother, where is the toilet paper? Me, why do you ask me? The toilet paper has always been in the bathroom, it should be there. If it's not there, that means there is none. Normally I would get embarrassed, but it was just hilarious. He was furious, I pretended I didn't know anything. He had to go buy some in a hurry, his friend was embarrassed. It's stupid, but man, did the friend pick the right time to come visit. Stories number 35. Guy in the apartment unit directly next door is a registered sex offender and I'm really creeped out. So I'm very pregnant, like 2 days past my due date pregnant. I say this because maybe I'm just being irrational and hormonal. But there is an older gentleman who lives next door. My husband and I saw him in passing by a few weeks ago and he greeted us super friendly and told us he was our neighbor. Neither of us has ever seen him before. He was friendly and chatty and we didn't think anything more of it. On Saturday I was coming home from a solo walk in our neighborhood trying to get labor going. That same neighbor saw me walking up and opened our building door for me. He asked how I was and when I was due. I get this question a lot from total strangers. So I just said today as it was my due date. And then laughed about how baby has other plans. He, again very friendly, said something along the lines of, well, I hope your husband is around just in case. My husband was in fact upstairs finishing up some work, so I said that and we said our goodbyes and that was that. When I got upstairs I told my husband that I ran into the friendly neighbor again and he was really creeped out. He didn't like that the guy asked where my husband was and it got his spidey senses tingling. I brushed it off and said he was probably just trying to be nice since he ran into both of us last time. WLP, last night my husband informs me that he thinks that guy is a convicted rapist. He then informs me that he checked the sex offender registry for whatever reason and there is someone in our building, on our floor, and based on the unit number he thinks it's that neighbor. So I go on the Megan's List website and put in our address and sure enough, that guy's mugshot is right there when I click on our building. It is 100% him. Apparently he was convicted of raping an unconscious woman in 2002. I am typically very independent and have been a city dweller for years, so I don't usually get freaked out, but for whatever reason I just feel so creeped out and scared today. I normally go for a walk every day and to be honest, I don't even want to leave the house. There are apparently lots of sex offenders in our neighborhood. So I'm waiting for my husband to come home from work so we can go for a long walk together. I'm sure I will eventually get over it and stop being a baby. But right now I'm just uncomfortable in my building. I feel so vulnerable. And him asking me questions about my husband being home just gives me a cold to my stomach feeling. Luckily, my husband's job is forcing us to relocate in a month, so we won't be living next to this guy anymore. That's all. I don't really know what I hope to get out of this post. But I just needed to get my feelings out. Thanks for reading. Edit. Thank you everyone for your comments and for making me realize my worries are justified. I will be keeping my distance from him, which when baby comes hopefully ASAP should be really easy because we'll most likely be in our bubble for the first few weeks and then we have to move.